Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video. So today guys, we've got something a little bit different for you today. We're doing a collaboration video and I have with me today Johnny from Schola Progenium. Now those of you that may not be aware of this, me and Johnny are brothers, him being the older and wiser, me being the younger and more impetuous one. And we've basically been playing Warhammer together properly for about 8 years, but for our entire lives realistically. Johnny has his own YouTube channel, like I said, called Schola Progenium. Go and check that out. He focuses mostly on sort of Blood Angels and Death Watch, but he does do capsule tactics. So it's like what you see here on Mordian Glory, but instead of just guard, he does obviously is Astartes stuff as well. Although you have started dabbling in knights and you've got your own loyal 32 now, so he's slowly becoming a guard player.
It's a slippery slope, I tell you, though. I've started off, bought myself 3 knights around Christmas, thought, deserve a little treat. 2018 was, just a normal year, but I still felt I deserved a treat. But I have now quickly escalated that to 8 knights. They just sort of
pile up.
They pile up. They're just too. I just like knights. I really like them. So there's probably going to be quite a lot of knights tactics, and I've got myself 4 chaos knights there now. So that'll be coming onto the channel as well. Not that I'm not faithful to the Imperium.
But,
praise the Emperor.
But I'm not. It's not that I'm not faithful, but
yeah.
I'm not a heretic. But
I'm just, Eisenhower style. I'm just radical.
Radical.
People don't understand what needs to be done for the sake of the Emperor. That's their problem.
Yeah, so the few must die so the many may benefit. We're getting a bit too into the fluff there.
Yeah, exactly. But not for the greater good, because that's getting into scumbag town.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to think, like I said, we're doing a collaboration. First time we've done this, so let us know what you think. Not just about the content of the video, but of course things like sound levels, the technical side of things, because we think we've got it set up correctly. But of course, any feedback on that would be great. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be taking a look at. I've just come back from Cali Revolution 2019, which is one of the older and more prestigious, I would say, grand tournaments in the UK. Very
well established tournament in the UK, ETC format, but interestingly, they're now sort of starting to leak some ITC rules into that as well. So there's a lot to discuss. Cali is sort of the tournament that me and Tim generally uphold as the one that means the most to us. And I think a lot of players in the UK would probably agree with us there. You've got a really high level of play, really strong lists, very up-to-date meta. But it's a big enough tournament that you get, some interesting wildcards in there as well. So it's always really, really fun tournament to take part in. I unfortunately couldn't go this year because of work commitments, but we've both been in the past, and we're going to talk to you about it today. I'll ask Tim a few questions, and hopefully I will ask the questions that are on your minds about guard and about what happened at the tournament, and Tim will be able to outline the information in great detail, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So that's what we're aiming for. So it's going to be a bit of general feedback on the tournament, and some, how my games went, what I sort of noticed about the general meta, how my list did, and Johnny's going to be as I'm saying things, Johnny's going to be asking questions at each point essentially. So just first off, I want to say huge thank you. I know it goes without saying, but huge thank you to the Caledonian. Element Games to the organisers. Absolutely fantastically run event. If they used the app tabletop.to to run all the submissions and favourite game votes, and now everyone, 5-6 years ago, using apps and stuff always used to cause a headache. Now everyone's so used to it.
So
smooth. No issues. Worked perfectly. No technical difficulties. It was a very easy tournament. You just went to your phone told you where you were meant to be, and you went there. Absolutely fine.
Did they have table service this year?
Had table service.
It's just great there. The guys who run it are great. The extra staff they get in for the events are always really friendly, really nice, really attentive, and they come round. They ask you, do you want a beer? Do you want a drink? You just tell them what you want, and then it just gets brought to you. Top level gaming, prestige. Tournament. It's really nice.
They've got a huge shop there, bigger than I remember it being.
You cannot imagine the amount of stock.
It's big. They've got more stock than Games Workshop.
They've got 10 times more stock than Games Workshop. The amount of times that I go into Games Workshop and I say, "Do you have this? Do you have this?" Jet bikes.
We can order it in.
You name it. We can order it in. You can order it in now if you want. It'll be here on Wednesday. Element Games I wanted to get some Loyal 32. You know, I wanted to make them like feudal style, so I decided to get some Necromunda infantry. What are those guys? The Cawdor guys.
Cawdor gangers.
So I decided to get the Cawdor gangers. Had loads of, you know, old Empire and Bretonian parts from, you know, collecting Warhammer since I was a little kid. So just built up in my bit box. So I went in there and I thought, well, I hope they've got it in, kind of thing. And they had about 8 boxes of them and about 8 boxes of everything. They had about 6 of those blooming, you know, the little Terminator Dreadnought thingamajigs that they've got. You know, they have literally a warehouse full of Warhammers.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's like being a kid in a candy store. It's so good.
It's all
20% off,
15% off. So it's a really the venue's fantastic. The store, the actual gaming area is great. The terrain was absolutely top notch. Big shout out to another YouTube channel if you haven't heard of them. Go and check out Glasshammer Gaming. They're relatively small, a couple of thousand subscribers, but they provided they do competitive games, and they provided pretty much all the terrain, or at least half the terrain.
Respect. And it's really good because it is actually the community coming together.
Yeah.
You know, me and Tim, we play Warhammer with a few guys from around the country occasionally, like we're talking once a year or so, and some people more frequently. But, you know, these guys, they're all, you know, playing games at a competitive local meta. They all get together for different tournaments and that kind of thing. Tim more so than me, just because, you know, he's free to play on a Tuesday at Warlord Gaming, which I'm not currently. But, you know, what we're saying is it's really nice to see all guys from around the country who you get to play a tournament against once in a while, tournament match up, even if you don't match up against them. And everyone sort of, you know, Matt brings a lot of terrain traditionally to tournaments and that kind of thing. And, you know, everyone sort of adds their little bit of spirit and contribution in either personality or in actual physical, like, given terrain. So, like, the tournament can happen, which is always nice. But it's, you know, it's grown a lot since sort of the many years that it's been running. And this is just customer feedback, by the way. We are literally in no way associated with Element Games.
I mean, I'd love it if they would sponsor me.
Yeah, you know, send us some free models, give us a bigger discount. But no, this is genuinely just our feelings. It is a excellent tournament. If you live in the UK or even Europe, just definitely make the trip. They do 2 a year. Caledonia Uprising in January.
And Revolution.
Revolution in June,
summer.
June, July, the summer. And it's, you know, 150-ish people roughly every time, give or take.
It's about 100. I'd say 100, it's about, because it used to be a little bit more, simply because it was the grand tournament,
but
and now with 8th edition,
didn't it? Like, it's a little hard to manage that many people, however good you are. And now obviously they provide a much higher quality of tournament, but yeah, fewer people these days. But yeah, so it's definitely worth a ticket. But I think their Uprising 2020 already sold out, but there's always loads of tickets. A lot of people just buy one because they just got that in their calendar, and then if they can't go, they sell it, because you always sell the ticket.
That's how I got my Cali, the one I just went to. So someone I knew realised they couldn't go last minute, and I managed to get my ticket a month before the event, considering it'd been on sale for like a year. You know, the event was a year in planning, so
sort of moving on from that, Tim, let's have a look. You know, so you've sort of, in such a prestigious tournament as we've been going on about, but sort of tongue-in-cheek, you've also come away with quite a prestigious award, have you not? Because you've actually been sort of vindicated in your tactics, because you've come away with best in faction. So you only get best in faction if you're taking a pure list. So he had to take pure Imperial Guard, which obviously he did, Mordian Glory, and he won. Or sort of didn't win the tournament, obviously, but he won what in many ways is more important, which is best in faction. And it's really nice for me sort of see Tim do this on a brotherly level, just, you know, not just from a 40k perspective, but on a brotherly level. You know, I won Best General, you know, 2015, Caledonia Uprising, the January tournament, and I've sort of sat on my laurels a little bit and sort of teased him here and there a little bit competitively when we've been going to a tournament in advance, and he's always been going for this best in faction at the big tournaments, and for some reason it just, the lineup, the setup, the games that he pulls or whatever, he always gets one game which just robs him of like a point or something away from getting best in tournaments. So it's nice to see it happen.
What I've done, there's a big, it's I mean considering they give, to a lot of people they give 2 of these away every year, so to a lot of people it's not a big deal, but to me it's a huge deal, simply because there's as Jonathan said, there's been a couple of times when I've really through my own fault, like, thrown it away by one or 2 points accidentally, or been cheated off at 1 or 2 points, and finally to actually achieve it. There was a lot of run up to this. I used this Armageddon Steel Legion, an army that I'm extremely familiar with. I have a very bad habit with tournaments, last minute coming up with some Banzai list that I think is amazing, and on paper it's great, but because I'm not practiced with it, and then it takes me the first 2 games of the tournament to actually figure out how the list operates, and then I've already put myself out of the running. So I made sure that I got lots of practice in with the list. I was extremely familiar with it. I played against the best opponents I could play with it.
I mean, they're the main channel list at the moment. Whilst you're doing your sort of Mordian revival project, restoration project, you're using those Steel Legion all the time. I mean, it's unfortunate that you've come away with this best general when you're not using pure infantry Mordians, but I'm sure that'll when the great restoration project is said and done, you'll be able to come away with another one of these medals that hopefully looks even flashier, because my medal, is a few years old now, and it doesn't have sort of really any level of quality to it. There's just a little plastic disc, whereas yours is quite nice, to be fair. I like that.
Yeah,
with a little Element Games symbol on it. You can't take it out, man. I already tried with mine. It's like super glued in. Leave that.
It's going to wear it on my neck.
Don't break it. You've only just got it.
Yeah.
But, so...
Speaking of the list.
Yeah, well, no, I was going to say, speaking of this, going into a tournament, to have a good time, you want to know... You want to have goals, and winning doesn't necessarily want to be one of those goals. I don't play 40k to a level where I want to actually win tournaments. That sounds ridiculous. I would, absolutely love to win a tournament. And I've done well in tournaments, and I have won local tournaments, of course, easy peasy. But when I go to a tournament, the thing that I value is best general, and more recently also most sporting.
Yeah, so definitely most sporting is a big one.
Just because, I've played a lot of 40k and won a lot of games, lost a lot of games, and I think probably, back in the day when I used to go to tourneys a few years ago, I would be a lot more intense, do you know what I mean? Because I would be on edge, and I would be thinking, I've got Blood Angels, and maybe it was 7th edition, and we were just absolutely terrible, and every matchup was terrible, and I was just getting if I wasn't totally on the ball, I would get my ass kicked, so I had to go full level focus and concentration. Now that's not to say I was Bible bashing my codex or anything like that.
It was your own tactics.
I was my own tactics and my own units, but I had to be really focused to have a chance of winning the game. And I was always trying to grab those minor victories just to stay in the top half of the tournament.
Yeah.
And try and get that best general. And you just feel validated when you get the best general. Yeah. But now I actually, just without even thinking about it, I won most sporting last year at the Warlord team tournament.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, that was a nice surprise. And I was not expecting it. It was really good.
Just to jump in, I think you actually won most sporting in the purest way, because sporting votes actually counted towards final position, and you gave one of your last opponent the most scoring.
I gave him 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
The top
and
amount.
If you hadn't done that, you could have come second or first.
I think I would have won the tournament.
But because you were sporting. And you didn't rank him down lowly to boost yourself up. You got the purest most sporting, which is you got most sporting legitimately.
And he won the tournament.
Legitimately,
so it was he won and I got most sporting through my damn sportsmanship. I could have won that tournament.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Just one last thing to say on this, because we haven't actually talked about the tournament itself yet, so we'll get onto that in a moment. But it was a little emotional with getting this medal, which seems silly over a Warhammer one, but there's a lot of history here, and maybe another collab video will go into it a little more. But back in 2015, when me and Johnny went to Cali for the first time, we both thought we'd got best general of our respective factions, Blood Angels and Guard, and Johnny got it and I didn't, which is not not besmirching Johnny in any way or feeling sorry or martyring myself, feeling sorry for myself, but there always was that little black mark, if you know what I mean, in the back of my mind.
Maybe it's a little brother psychology thing.
Maybe
if I've got it, you want it.
maybe, but it was more. It wasn't even that. It was just a kind of it was night. That should have been the tournament where the Vast Bros went to
Cali together.
Yeah, and got the best faction, and it didn't happen. So, and it's always been I've been chasing that since, and finally...
And we don't get to go to that many tournaments together. Either I'm free or you're free.
Exactly.
So we've made a pact. We're going to Caledonia Uprising 2020. We're going to pick up some tickets.
Yeah.
If you want to pick up some too, if you live in Europe, we'll see you there for a pint.
Exactly.
And with that, let's get on to discussing, because we've actually been
15 minutes.
Chatting away for 15 minutes. We do this a lot, so let us know in the comment section if this is too much chatter.
This will probably be a long one though. But it's when I did my last, I said this to Johnny before we started. When I did my last tournament summary, it was an hour by myself. Now we've got two people in the room. Could be 2 hours, but it's good for painting videos.
You'll be able to see, because you'll be able to see, obviously, in hindsight, how long this video is when you click on it.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
It is what it is. But I think, hopefully I'll add a little bit of direction. I'll be asked sort of instead of you focusing on one thing necessarily that stood out to you, I'll maybe able to add a bit of direction, and hopefully we'll be able to keep the time down to a reasonable level.
First, you ask me what was I using, and you can comment as I'm saying it.
I thought we had some good blooming footage there. But
that was only it was in 1 minute. We'll get that again, don't worry. So you asked me. So what did you, for the benefit of everyone? Say
for the benefit of
however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Say when.
Okay, go for it. Right. So let's get down to brass tacks, Tim. What was your list and what were your matchups?
So my list was a slight variation of my Armageddon Steel Legion 234th Mechanized Infantry list. Basically, typically you've seen me use the Chimeras and the Russes, but since Chapter 3 2018 came out, which I know it was a while ago now, the points of the Chimeras came down, which meant I actually had about 235 points extra in my list. And for a while, as you saw in the battle report when I was taking on Matt Robertson's Knights, I was using a Manticore to fill in the points and Yarick, and that just really wasn't cutting the mustard. So I decided to drop that, and I actually, even though I thought I had my Steel Legion completed, I actually went out and bought an extra Armoured Sentinel with a Lads Cannon, and an extra tank commander, which I gave the Hammer of Sunderers. You can see the list right there. So the final list was, I had a battalion number 1, which was the Vigilant Detachment Emperor's Fist Tank Company, which had tank commander with Hammer of Sunderance, 2 tank commanders with Plasma Executioner turrets, and all 3 of those tanks had a hull heavy bolter and 2 plasma sponsons, and because I had 2 points left over, the Hammer of Sunderance tank commander had a storm bolter.
And what does the Hammer of Sunderance do?
The Hammer of Sunderance is it replaces a regular battle cannon, and you get strength 8, AP -2, but instead of D3 damage, you get a flat 3.
Ooh.
So every wound you
get, Thunder Hammers down range.
It's basically a Thunder Hammer, yeah. It's
Thunder Hammer launcher.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Angry Marine's next unit.
Yeah, exactly. And to represent it, because I've got. Because it's the only regular Lehman Russ turret in my army, I just use a Vanquisher cannon. To represent it, I basically say the Cromlech turrets are like a local variant, which are sort of not to STC design. And the Hammer of Sunderers is actually it's not a relic; it's a modern, up-to-date STC Imperial
controversial
one. Yeah, I know, a little controversial.
A little bit of heretic tech there, but we all know what you're like with Eugene Steele.
Exactly,
cult you scumbag.
Exactly. So that's 3 tank commanders, and then I had Tempest Engines here in there, and then I had 3 squads. 3 Chimeras, double heavy bolter, heavy stubber, squads, bolter, plasma gun. So the 2nd battalion just had 2 company commanders, 1 with bolt pistol and power sword, 1 with just a power sword, and you guys recognise them. You've got the classic Steel Legion officer, you've got the Krieg officer in there, which I used for the 2nd company commander. Just 3 squads with plasma gun, bolter, 3 Chimeras, double heavy bolter, heavy stubber. That's just. I split it from 2 brigades simply because I didn't want to take the 3rd heavy support truss. I wanted to turn that 3rd basic Russ into a 3rd tank commander.
Well, we thought, why?
Because tank commanders are just better.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the return in the meta, aren't we? Rapidly.
Tank commanders are rising.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, one of the things I was going to ask was sort of what was your views on the AP -1? I know this is like a thought on probably a lot of people's minds who know your army and have been listening, because obviously you've gone with Armageddon Steel Legion, which are not by any means a popular regimental trait. But we've been thinking about this and talking about this a lot in the build up to the tournament, and just in general anyway. It was just the amount of invuln saves in the meta means that people are responding with weapons that don't have high AP. The weapons are good in ways that don't have. They're good weapons, but one of their strengths of those weapons is they're not high AP, which means you get a lot of AP -1 and that kind of thing.
So
I know Knights hate AP -1.
So the meta. So the last thing I should say is the last detachment was an Outrider company commander, bolt pistol chain
thanks.
sword, and 4 armored sentinels and las cannons.
Just so many units.
That's it. So total list: 3 tank commanders, 6 squads, 2 conquerors as well, and 4 armored sentinels. So you guys know the list. The extra additional was the extra tank commander and the las cannon sentinel. So the AP -1 thing, just to address that point, as Johnny said, the meta initially when 8th edition dropped, it was all about dem assault cannons, and then when assault cannons got nerfed, people started going more go big or go home. We saw a lot of las cannons appear in the meta. Steel Legion traits started becoming a little less useful, and then things like rotate ion shields and knights came back into the meta, and you've got Death Watch with the 3+ storm custodes, Death Watch with storm shields, and everyone has
Eldar with invulns.
Yeah, Harlequins like the 3+ prismatics.
They're all the same to me.
Yeah, or everyone. And as we've said, invuln spam has become a big thing in 8th edition again.
Absolutely huge.
So it's those armies who don't have invuln spam can struggle, and so as a return, you see a lot of people who have started going for AP -1 stuff again, and so the Steel Legion trait has kicked in massively.
So throughout all of your games, was it, significant?
It was very significant, I would say. I'd say in the majority of my games, it did crop up. I'd say pretty much in every game it cropped up.
Was this just cropping up and it's like, oh, that's nice to have, or was it like, phew, my blooming Chimera survived because of that AP -1?
50-50. 50% of the games it was, that has given me a slight advantage over the course of the game, has built up to a nice advantage.
Just something nice to have.
50% of the games it was, thank God, thank the Emperor that I have, that I ignore AP -1. And one of my opponents pointed out a really interesting thing which is, you never take 4-up saves, do you? And I was like, that's a really good point. I never take a 4-up save.
So you've got like 145 blooming wounds or something.
It's either a 3-up save or a 5+ save.
Yeah.
It's never a 4-up save.
Yeah.
Very rarely, anyway.
And your 5-ups on blooming guardsmen are like 4 points a mod, but they cost you nothing.
Yeah,
who cares?
exactly.
So good, solid list. A subtly solid list, which is always nice to take to a tournament. When people line up against you, you've got your list, but you know it, and you've got some stuff that they're not going to expect. They might not have practiced against. Always gives you that slight little advantage, which is nice to have. So talk us through game 1, Blood Angels and Guard Soup.
So my first game was against Manny Chima. He's on Team England, and he had a list which we have talked about on the channel actually, which was a hyper aggressive close combat Catachan Guard army with a hyper aggressive Blood Angel Supreme Command attachment.
I absolutely love this list.
It's a very, very good list. Gotta be honest, it is pretty much the perfect counter to my list, because unless I go first, everything's tagged. He's wrapping and trapping. Basically, it was a tough matchup, and we both said whoever goes first here is going to have a real advantage.
So for the people who aren't familiar, just very briefly run us through his list.
It's 120 Catachan Guardsmen, no upgrades.
So they're +1 strength.
+1 strength. They've got a priest in 6 inches of the majority of them, so +1 attack. They've got Strachan within 6 inches, so again +1 attack.
Wow, 3 attacks.
So 3 attacks per guardsman. The Blood Angel Supreme. He's then got on top of that. He's got 3 wyverns and 9 mortars and Harker. So that's so much ignoring. And then he's got Supreme Command attachment with 3 Blood Angel Smash Captains, Storm Shield, Thunderhammer, and 2 Librarian Dreadnoughts, both of which have Wings of Sanguinius available to them. They can't do it at the same turn, but they both have it available to them. So it's got 5 HQs in one. And basically, the
Wings of Sanguinius, by the way, for those of you who don't know, allows the Psyker himself, can only cast on himself, but he flies 12 inches, and that lasts until his next psychic phase. So he's flying. He counts as flying. He's flying until his next movement phase. So until his next psychic phase, so he can do it. Nice to cast,
exactly.
Even if you don't use that movement straight away. People don't expect it. They forget about it, and then you just jump your Librarian up in the next movement phase, 12 inches. Start smacking away with that halberd. Flat 3 damage. Beautiful.
Exactly. So, and also all the Smash Captains were Death Company.
Yeah.
The 1 point for that.
Because that happens before the game. So
happens before the game, exactly.
Spend that stratagem as much as you want.
So basically, there was the table was urban, to say the least. Huge amounts of laws blocking terrain. Which I struggled with. I'm not going to lie. It really did highlight a weakness with the list, which was I didn't have any laws ignoring.
So you've got struggling with the line of sight. Everything you've got is direct shooting, and everything that you've got is a vehicle which can be tied up and then can't shoot the next turn, even if you manage to back out.
Yeah, if I get to back out.
And you're against a hyper-aggressive Blood Angel Guard, wrap you up and smash you up list.
Yeah,
interesting.
So it literally came down to who got first turn. Because if I got first turn, I'm going to clear away pretty much half those guards.
How many heavy bolters you rocking there?
There's
12
at least. There's 12 plus 5, 17. Then you've got the heavy stillers on top of that, and the plasma cannons on top of that, and the conquer cannons on top of that, and the storm bolters on top of that. There's a lot of
infantry. You are trimming away those infantry, and your big guns still get to shoot at what they want to shoot at.
Exactly. So it was. So yeah, it went. And unfortunately, he got first.
Ooh.
And honestly, that was pretty much it, because he just...
Oh, so you lost this one.
I did lose.
You to win.
No, I lost this one badly. Well, no, not badly actually. It was actually a bit of a quirk of the mission, which was it was progressive scoring depending on how many objectives you held and how many things you killed. Now, to give you basically,
you can kill guards.
I can if I can see them.
And magic boxes, because they're using ITC.
And it was a mix of ETC and ITCs. There was lots of magic boxes. So basically, he moved everything into lost blocking terrain turn 1. He used Forlorn Fury on a Blood Angel Death Company character, move 12 inches.
Because that's Death Company infantry can move
before the game
starts. They just move 12 and then move in the movement phase and then charge you.
Yep. So he had 24. So
3d6 charge if they need to.
Yep. So Smash Captain went straight into me. Tied up a tank,
and you can't overwatch him, of course.
No, exactly. Oh, and the other Smash Captain, upon Wings of Fire, so went up, came down. So
two command points now, isn't it?
Yeah, so two captains in my lines turn 1. All the guards went about 12.
Did he jump forward with one and then Wings of Fire the other, and 3d6 the guy Wings of Fire? Yeah. That's the perfect combo. Exactly. 2 Smash Captains in.
So he tied. So, but the way I deploy is my Chimera is basically made, and Sentinels made an iron wall. And my tanks were behind that. Tankception, exactly. So he tagged, blew up a couple of chimeras. And of course the Libby Dread moved 8, then flew 12, and then charged.
Yes. So did he cast the one that gives him plus D3?
Yeah, of course.
And that gives him an extra 3 inches on his charge as it is.
Exactly.
So he's moved a total of 8 plus 12, so 20 inches, and then plus a charge with plus 2 inches on it.
Plus 3.
Plus 3. Yeah, Magna Grapples are plus 2. Nasty.
So 3 Blood Angel characters of Alliance. Every guard unit moved practically, and he was pretty lucky with his rolls and didn't get less than a 4. So he is a move and advance, and then move and advance again. So every guardsman ran 20 inches as well. So he's got complete board. Like I said, who went first won. Pretty much, he had complete board control. And by the end, long story short, he was charging forward, wrapping and trapping tanks, so I couldn't even back out. Very cleverly, he was wrapping me in his turn and only having like one guardsman actually fight, so the guardsman would fail, and then in his turn, he would kill me.
Yeah, so he's blocking you in against your
blocking
own
in
tanks.
My turn.
It's almost like that, that famous Roman victory against the Celts when the Celts couldn't escape because their own baggage train and just got massacred.
Exactly.
So not a nice situation to be in. Anything not tied up. I know this situation well from the Blood Angel perspective. You tie up what you can't kill, you kill stuff, and then you move on to the stuff that you tied up last turn, kill that, bounce backwards and forwards, constantly recombining your units. Everyone's got a jump pack. The blooming Librarian can move 20 inches a turn, as we've discussed. Librarian Dreadnought, they are putting that smashiness where they need it. It's not like, hopefully I'll be able to draw him away moving this tank commander that I know he's going to want to attack. I'll move him away and hopefully he'll chase after him. No, he'll chase after him, kill him, and then move back and finish the rest of it off. It's nasty stuff.
He was even with the worst situation, right? Even with the worst case scenario, by the time the game ended, he had very little left on the board. Yeah. I mean, he had one if he had one. He didn't have any. He had no Blood Angel characters left. Had about at most 30 guardsmen.
Wow. So
And
he's
then
lost 75% of his infantry.
and then some of his mortar stuff as well. And I still had 4 Legion Rusters left over and a couple of Chimera squads. But it's simply because he just wrapped.
What was the overall score? Was it minor victory, major victory?
So he won 20 points to 0. He got a major
Wow.
victory. But to give an idea of how mad the progressive scoring was, I earned 40 victory points in that game, which would normally be enough to win.
Yeah.
And my opponent got 80.
Wow. Big score.
Because he just was on every objective every turn for 7 turns.
So sort of from that, you realising straight away, okay, more so than ever, 8th edition has gone into a movement and flexibility.
Board control is key.
Board control is it's always key. It's not new information, but being able to it's sort of having flexible board control, isn't it? It's controlling one part of the board, and then control another part of the board, and then control another part of the board. Control what you need to control where. And that sort of plays into elite armies' hands a little bit, because they don't have to cover the whole board. They can just cover what they need to and move on if they're fast enough.
I mean, people say assault armies, and in some cases this is a perfectly valid point. Assault armies are dead in 8th edition. That's just completely untrue.
No,
Every
in many ways,
army,
assault armies are.
I think every army I faced was, apart from one, was an assault army.
You can kind of argue that the face of the game as it currently stands is sort of moulded by how assault works, because you've got the restrictions to deep strike. Sort of the first couple of turns are designed to sort of make sure you don't just get into assault and kill them in 2 turns.
But they can.
Right? But they can. And that tells you a lot, doesn't it? It tells you that if you can get that assault off, because Games Workshop have really tried to stop you getting a game-changing assault off early on. If you can do it, then you're probably going to win a lot of games. That's why Dark Elder, great. That's why Blood Angels, although they're not popular on their own, you don't see a successful soup list without Blood Angels in it. You just don't see it.
I mean, just
Imperial, that is, obviously.
As a point to make, and not to go too far down this rabbit hole, because obviously we've got some other games to cover, I would say the fact that some armies, through various shenanigans, can still get a turn 1 charge, actually means pretty much everyone should be able to, because obviously it basically means the Games Workshop attempts at balancing assault have failed. Because some armies can still do it, so why not just give everyone the option to do it?
Yeah, but the guys who can do it, they're flimsy. The Blood Angels, they often die. Everyone who's played against Blood Angels or plays with Blood Angels knows that when you're doing that late game board control, every single turn you've got less and less resource to rely on. You have to sort of micromanage more and more. You have to recombine forces more and more when you're playing against, elite factions like that. You want to stop them being able to do that. You want to tie them up. It's sort of classic. I think it's back. It's just, I bloody love 8th edition 40k. I think it's really well balanced. I think that you can basically bring any sort of, not theme, but any style of army and any faction that you enjoy. Just not necessarily at tournament level, but in a sort of competitive basement gaming where you and your mates, you are bringing some heavy stuff. You're generally balanced. It's generally very back and forth game. Chapter approved, the new missions. It's all good. It's really good. Anyway, so just very briefly, we've talked sort of, you never had a chance or anything. It came down to going first. But if you would have played it again, could you have done anything? Was maybe creating the tankception, the armoured line within an armoured line, was that a bad idea? Would have been best to spread out, triple castle? What would you have done?
Honestly, there were 2 things. It was the fact the big weakness was I didn't have any ignoring laws, because he sat his guardsmen in magic boxes turn 1, turn 2, and then broke out turn 3. So I actually only had a few turns to gun down all his guardsmen.
And ITC style is growing and growing. I like both. But I kind of prefer true line of sight, even though it benefits me to have the sort of magic boxes. If you're in ground level terrain, you're out of line of sight. Though that benefits me, I kind of prefer true line of sight. I don't know why. It's just sort of feels right for me, personal preference. I've no argument for or against. But it's coming in. You've got to learn to do it, and we're going to have to start, developing tactics and always considering that. And we see this. I know at least from the Knight perspective and from Blood Angel's perspective with, people using scouts and this kind of thing. Though it's not my preference, you've got to play to that line of sight blocking element. Everyone who's successful has that little bit. Just like you've got your anti-tank, just like you've got your anti-infantry, you've also got to have your stuff, your kit that can dig people out of line of sight blocking terrain. You've got to do it.
And this is we'll cover this in more detail. We'll go on to the second game now, but we'll cover this in more detail. This was where I got the first inkling of what I'm going to call rap bait, which was the Sentinels.
Yeah, come on to this.
We'll talk about, so basically Sentinels obviously are traditionally used to push opponents' deep striking stuff back, and in general take the first wave of attacks. That was the traditional tactics I used at first, and I can tell you I will be dropping the Sentinels from my list.
Got the 4 Sentinels, not using them anymore. Because then, nice, the Sentinels nice. Toughness 6, are they?
Toughness 6 we're in people say. We'll get into it a little bit more, and you'll see why as the games go on.
So, turn 2.
Game 2.
Game 2, talk me through it.
Game 2, right, so I've taken a bit of battering in the first game, but like I said, it was it was a close game. My list, with its weaknesses, had shown it had a hell of a lot of firepower, manoeuvrability, and potential. It was obviously, as we all know, just weak to being wrapped. So second game came along, and it was against another pure guard player, and I was like, actually, there's more pressure on this game, because if I lose this one, I might as well just give up YouTube. So my opponent's list was, and some of you may have seen the pictures flicking past, it was the red and tan Imperial Guard list. And he ran a very...
And it's also, you used to have a lot of red and tan in your own
Yeah, maybe it's the spirit of the Mordians, I don't know.
Your past coming back to haunt you, you just ended up playing 5 guard guys, just like pure infantry was the third game.
Exactly, so the second game, pure guard, and he had a list which I have seen bandied about the internet a lot, and every time I see it, I've thought to myself, it doesn't quite seem right. And no, spoiler alert, but I was right. Okay, so what he had 3 basilisks in the Emperor's Wrath artillery formation, which means he can make one of the basilisks fire twice in a turn. Fantastic. So it's like he's got 4 basilisks.
Nice.
And he had 2 tank commanders with punishers with all the bolters, which again everyone on the internet says that can destroy a unit a turn, even no matter what it is. And then he had 6 infantry squads, and he had a Bulgrin, and then he had a Bulgrin star, which was it wasn't quite a full one. I think it was 7 Bulgrins with a mixture of the slab shields and the brute shields, all with mauls. Those guys were on a 2-up, 1-up save nearly the whole time. The mouse want to hit pretty much the whole time. They're almost impossible to kill unless you really dedicate. Unless you've got serious firepower. Thank God I have serious firepower.
Yes, sir.
So, yes, sir, Commissar, the firepower over there. So,
see that tank over there?
You see that Bulgrin star? You see that Bulgrin star? Yes, my lord. I don't want to. Very good, my lord. So, basically, I did seize on him, and he immediately used prepared defences, but because I wasn't expecting to seize on him, didn't really get a huge amount out of it.
Yeah, you'd set up in a defensive measure, and therefore I hate it when that happens. When you get the seize and you're like, yes, I've seized. Oh, wait, I'm not really going to achieve much.
So how I deployed, it was Dawn of War deployment, and how it was I made, as I've learned from using my Siege, I didn't make 1 big castle, I made 3 smaller castles.
This is what I was thinking, yeah.
3 smaller castles, 2 chimeras on the right flank, backed up by a tank commander executioner. 2 chimeras in the middle, backed up by the 2 conquerors. 2 chimeras on the left flank with the Hammer of Sunderance and Plasma Executioner. Couple of the sentinels interspersed equally across the line.
I'm literally getting flashbacks.
Yeah, you've seen it. You see it. You know what it is. The tactics have come a long way from when I used to just put all the tanks in one place. Now we have the 5 eyes spread across the line. We pushed it, and basically, I did an awesome mechanized assault. Guys, chimeras, highland charging across, tanks grinding up behind them, waves
pounding shots down
away.
Range.
Exactly. Now, even though I went first,
glorious charge of the Imperial Guards.
I didn't even kill one of his bastards turn 1. I just degraded one. That's it, because they were hiding.
And it's kind of important to do that when you see. You get the same. What are those Nurgle things that they're not
plague
used
burst
that?
Crawlers.
Yeah, plague burst crawlers. They're not used that often, but people who use them like them.
Yeah.
Because when you've got 3 of them.
You're talking about the little ones or the big ones?
Yeah, the little ones.
Oh, the blight crawlers.
The blight crawlers. You don't see them that often, but people who use them like them. Because they're not amazing, but they're not terrible. They're fairly priced, but people overlook them, I think, in a Nurgle horde when you've got all the other stuff going on. and so they ignore them. And those guys are just hitting you with three missiles, 3 multi-melter shots, and they're hitting on 3s. And if you just kill one of them, they go down to hitting on 4s. You don't need to focus them down. Just kill one. Same with the Basilisk. You know, when you see a unit like that, formation like that,
you just kill one.
Just kill one.
And this is kind of now. People always say in the Emperor. So people say the Emperor's. I should say the way my opponent deployed is had a tank commander and a sentinel on one flank, a bunch of infantry spread out in the middle, and his artillery battery on my left, his right flank. Okay, so basically I pushed across the line, broke through the gaps, and this time it was the other way around. It was the opposite to my first game. I was being aggressive.
Yeah.
I was taking board control. I was putting the pressure on him, and as we've talked about this in other videos, and me and John talk about pretty much every time we have a game, is it's all about momentum, it's all about aggression, it's all about the push and push and get two armies against.
Keeping your momentum going,
exactly.
Don't let yourself get bogged down.
So the thing is, so I did it, but I didn't kill any, even though I fired 2 Conquerors at them, I didn't kill any Bulgarins turn 1 because he was on a 2-up save, then he had prepared defense, he was on a 1-up save, then he used to take cover, so he was on a 0-up save. So my Conquerors meant he was still on a 2-up save. So I didn't kill any Conquerors. So I realised very quickly, them Bulgarins need plasma in. Because then he's on a 3-up save, and I can actually...
Did you think to yourself, maybe I should build up that box of ogres and Bulgars?
I do have, yeah, it did make me think they're really horrible. They're really good. But, so basically... I had board control. I won't go into too much detail because I got 29. I tabled him, completely blew him off the board. Had all my Liam Russes left. It was a one-sided slaughter fest.
Now you don't automatically win for tabling, but in European Championship format, you do get.
No, you keep going and then you get maximum.
Because it's clocks, isn't it? So it's
played
on the clock. You get 90
I think you do. I think you do get 20. No, you do. If you table your opponent, you do get 20.
Yeah, I'm sure with their format, you still get 20, which I think is right. I think I enjoy that about the ETC format.
It's a bit cutthroat.
It's cutthroat, but I like it.
So, like I said, it was a beautiful mechanised assault. You know, ramps were coming down, guardsmen were coming out, armoured fish stratagem, first rank fire, second rank fire, clearing away, bayonet charging.
Just a textbook.
The Tactica Imperialis would have used that as an example to other officers. It was very, not to wank myself off, but it was very well done.
Yeah.
But my opponent played as best as he could play, but it was the limitations of his list. It's Bulgarins.
Before you tell me, can I say what I feel about his list?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm seeing like a lot of really nice elements, but without the little bits in between. It's like if you had a big jar of sweets and all the sweets were quite big, there'd be like all little gaps in between and then you'd get like smaller sweets, fill it up, so you've got the jar packed with sweets kind of thing. I know that's a weird analogy, but that's sort of how I'm seeing his list. He's got these Bulgarins, he's got these Basilisks, Punishers. He's got all great stuff, but the Guard is about the Guard. You need them glue. You need that glue. You need those little units. You need that cheeky Hellhound that people are like, oh, for God's sake, this fucking Hellhound, 18-inch, burst of fire. You need your little toys.
Exactly. So the limited he had, basically, it was almost like he had 2 Death Stars, and he had the Emperor's Wrath and he had the Bulgars. But I've been saying this about the Emperor's Wrath, and I've been saying this about the Bulgars for a while. Bulgars are slow, and I am not. Everything can just
God,
move.
It's so fast.
Everyone
knows this now.
If I want to be, I'll move my Chimera 12 inches away. That Bulgar's never going to catch me.
I always say to people,
it's never going to catch me.
I always say on my tactics videos, if you're playing against Guard, and you've got you're holding an objective, and you're there's a Guard squad 22 inches away from you. They can be on that objective in their turn.
Exactly.
It's not safe.
And my tanks, if his Bulgars ever get close, guess what? Full throttle. I'll just move that tank 20 inches plus 2d6. It's like move for tanks.
Yeah.
So his Bulgars never got close. They didn't kill a single thing. A Bulgar star didn't kill a single unit. And that's the second game where if you Steel not in this tournament, but in another tournament, where Steel Legion have gone up against the Bulgar star and just killed it.
Yeah, just shot it down.
With some spare firepower. Just my plasma cannons on every tank just went into it, and over the course of 4 turns, those Bulgars just evaporated one by one.
And this is the key: still firing your turret. That's it. It's like his list is nice, and I don't like to talk down about other people's lists because I always have my own tactics and my own unit combinations that I like, and I'm sure you guys out there have your combinations. You know, you'll use stuff that everyone uses because there's some stuff that's undeniably good, and you've always got your stuff that you think, I like this unit and I know it's good and it works for me. So I'm not talking smack about this guy's list on any level.
He played the best he could play. He didn't make any tactical mistakes.
And respect to any guard player, even if it is a super powerful codex at the moment. You know, I love guard, and a lot of guard players, you know, they've earned this time because they've really slogged it through a couple of editions of absolute shit. And, you know, if you're a tournament guard player and have been going to tournaments with guard for a while, you know...
He's only been playing guard since 8th.
Glory hound. I see.
So he hasn't
said that, you know... Well, yeah,
he's, like I said, he played this, but what? So the Bullgrins.
The point I was going to make before I started rambling about this dude is like, you're able to actually fire your firepower at optimum levels at all times. You've got some weapons which are optimally firing at the Bullgrins, and you've got your big guns are optimally firing at the vehicles. So it's not like you're having to use stuff just because it's the weapons that you've got.
No,
everything's firing to full effect every single turn until the dust settles and it's just gone.
Well, and so in this, second thing to mention was the Emperor's Wrath was the Basilisk. Underwhelming, and I've been saying this. It's underwhelming, and I'll tell you why it's underwhelming. Because if a Basilisk firing twice, it's still only hitting on 4s. Using aerial spotters, great, but you roll your 2d6. My opponent was getting typically what you get with a Basilisk, which is about 4 shots a turn. So even with aerial spotters, you're only hitting
2 to 3.
2 to 3. And as I always say, a 4 when you're hitting on a 4-up, you're not really, your rerolls don't mean you're hitting like 3 out of 4 of those shots.
It means you're getting what you get.
Yeah, it means your rerolls are basically keeping you statistical. Which is what I always say. It's like it saves you.
Keeps it consistent.
So he was getting like hitting twice with the Basilisk and then wounding because it's only wounding on 3s, so he wounds once with the Basilisk. And then I get a 6-up save. So but one Basilisk shell goes through.
And if you get that 6-up save,
yeah, it's only D3 damage.
Yeah.
So sure, you can do that twice, but he's only doing an average of against my Armageddon. He's what 8?
Oh no!
About 8 wounds.
Yeah, please don't put 2 wounds on my company commander, of which tank commander, of which I have 3.
And I've got a tech priest. Literally, he was just blasting away at my tank commander. And every turn it was just jury rigging tech priest, jury rigging tech priest, jury rigging tech priest. 3 wounds back on. Oh, the damage he did, it's back on. Oh, the damage he did, it's back on. Like his Basilisk just weren't doing enough because 1 got degraded the first turn. So that didn't do anything. 1, he was able to fire but didn't have aerial spotters, so that got 1 wound through. And the other one managed to get 4 wounds through. 5 wounds. 6 wounds. Who gives a shit?
It's not that there's too many steps at which you could probably fuck up.
And I don't have -1 to hit. Imagine if he was playing an army where he had -1 to hit.
Or -2 to hit. Harlequin bikers, -1 to hit.
-2 to hit sometimes.
-2 if they cast a psychic power. Oh yeah, now I'm just not hitting anything.
Yeah. So I've been saying the Basilisks don't have that rate of fire.
How many points is it?
It's 108 for a Basilisk.
So you've got 3 of them. So it's
324 points.
324 points, which sounds like a bargain, but you know, it's like when you're in the shop and something's reduced and you think, that looks good, but then you'll never eat it or never use it. It's not actually a bargain if it's not useful. It's points that is cheap for the unit, but if it's not useful, it's not cheap.
Yeah,
it's a waste of points.
Exactly. Now to rein it in a little bit, because I don't want people thinking I am saying the Emperor's Wrath artillery formation is useless. It's not. It's a very good formation,
but it is cheap.
And it is cheap, but do not rely on it for your anti-tank. It is not for that. It just means that what that formation does is it means your Basilisks are reliable. That is all it is.
It's a cheap, consistent output of fire, but it very much is the booming. If you imagine, close your eyes for a second, you're an Imperial Guardsman, you're crouched in a trench in the mud, you're clutching your last gun, you've just finished wiping your ass with a page from your Imperial Primer, and you can hear, what can you hear in the background of that image? The thud of cannons. And that's what they are. They are the background thud. You don't even see that in your battle. It's just some firepower that's adding.
It's just the consistent damage. That's all it is. Because sometimes you will get the big 6 shots, but you don't. It just doesn't happen that often. Yeah. And so there's put it this way. There's a reason the Manticore is not included in the Emperor's Wrath artillery formation, because if that can fire 2d6 shots,
then it would be kicking people.
and it would be amazing because it'd be firing 4d6 shots because you could fire your Manticore twice.
Yeah.
and it's strength 10 and it's AP -2, it's D3 damage. So there's the Basilisk.
Take it, use it,
exactly.
but be aware that it is some nice, consistent firepower that you will always be able to direct at some point in the battlefield. It'll always be useful to you,
and it will finish something off.
It's like, yeah, that's all. Take that away from that. So
the last thing to say, the AP -1 thing
came into I like heavy bolters. I take heavy bolters dotted across my force just for that added firepower. And it's what we were saying earlier, about how some nice DACA that fills in the gaps and helps you kill stuff and finish stuff off. And I rely on my heavy bolters for that, but they can do that. They're often wounding on 5s against vehicles. If I think, I just want to finish that vehicle off, they can do it. They can get me a couple of wounds. They lose that AP -1. All of a sudden, I've got points spent on bolters that are just a waste of time.
Useless, yeah.
And it's the same if you use stealth suits or like Tau, with a burst cannon. A lot of the time you don't want to spend the points on having the AP -1 with the advanced targeting system, but as soon as you do spend those points, when you do it and you do use it, you notice just how insane those pulse shots get, because the AP -1 plus the strength 5, it just seems to be a beautiful combination. It just is a nice combination.
And if you can stop that,
it goes straight back to square one, and you've spent a lot of points on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've learned a lot not so much from the first game, taken a lot away from the second game.
Second game, I know we spent a lot of time on it, but it's because it's obviously guard and guard.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's a guard channel, so it's good for us to go into a bit more detail on it.
People will be considering different purchases.
Exactly.
Should you buy Bullgrind? Possibly. Should you buy Basilisk? Possibly. Spend your money on what you like. The look of, I say, but
yeah, exactly. So there was a lot. It validated a lot of things that I've been thinking about.
Yeah,
and I don't know. But
you've got these questions in your mind, haven't you? You've got these questions in your mind, so it's nice to get some real world experience at a competitive level where your opponent's playing their best. That's probably the best performance. And as you said, that guy played his heart out and did really well and was a really good guard player in his own right, even though he's quite recent.
Absolutely.
He knows his craft. So if you're playing against a guard player that's good and they're using good units and they don't perform, that performance is a good measure of how good that is, if that makes sense, at a competitive level. So finally, game 3.
So game 3, final game of day 1, and I'm feeling okay. I've lost one. I've lost one, but that was one of those games whoever gets first win. That just happens in 8th edition. That's the fact that my list did okay. Was fine.
And more to the point, major win, major loss.
Major win, major loss.
Right where you started.
Exactly.
Nothing won.
And then I come across, and then I play Jez, who's actually from Warlords. We play every other week. He's very. You guys have seen him on the channel. He's the guy that used the Ulthway versus my Steel Legion a few weeks ago. He's been on a few battle reports.
And if you've played against Jez, if you listen to this, you're on the tourney scene. You'll know Jez.
Everyone knows Jez.
Everyone knows Jez. He's this big lad, friendliest, soundest guy you will ever have at 40k competitive. I cannot say enough nice things about this bloke. He is so sound.
We've had so many games. He's not a rules lawyer. He
brings the cheesiest hardcore stuff.
He brings the most hardcore. You look at his list and you think this guy is a whacker. You think this guy's a whacker, and you play him and he couldn't be further from it. He's not a bad player. He's a very good player
with a very good list.
But he doesn't rule scribble you.
He doesn't game you.
He doesn't game you. He doesn't game you. He doesn't try any shenanigans.
You just don't feel like you're being sharked.
No,
and if
exactly.
You know what I mean. You just it's just always a good game with Jez. Anyway, so Jez.
So Jez had Harlequins with as much haywire as humanly possible can be fit into that list. He had 18 of the, I think it's Sky Runners, which are the bikes which have got 3 wounds each, not 2, 3 wounds, which is huge. Because Plasma doesn't one-shot them.
Yeah,
they've got a 4 of Invern. The whole army's -1 to hit, which is basically guard kryptonite, which he can get up to -2 to hit with lightning fast reflexes. And if he advances with one of his bite squads, they use prismatic blur and get a 3+ invulnerable save.
And of course, you've got your standard infantry in there. Everyone's got a fusion pistol.
He's got two of the transports with 5 Harlequins in each one.
And they've got Did he have the things with the alternating fire modes?
No, he didn't bother with them.
No,
he just had the transport versions, 2 shuriken cannons, but you don't care about shuriken cannons. What you care about is the fact that he's got a fusion pistol on everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm facing Haywire.
Everyone is -1 to hit. Those bikes are -1 to hit flat. That's without anything being cast. Those transports -1 to hit flat. Nothing.
Whole
being
army's
cast.
got fly.
Everything's fly. Everything's -1 to hit. Everything's a 4-up invuln. Almost everything is like AP -4 or mortal wounds. Or I played against this list yesterday against Lewis, and Lewis, if you're listening to this, you are a scumbag. But it is absolutely brutal when they roll D6 for those haywire shots on those bikes. You're like, surely not D6. Yeah, you're like, what?
You are puckering because
it's
so
literally like. That can't be right. You don't want to question.
And it's 24-inch range.
I genuinely Lewis is like one of my best mates, long-standing mate. Been playing against 40k against him for just absolutely years. You know, he's well into his 40k. He's got every different faction, at least 1,000 points. You know, big old armies of multiple factions. But like, oh my god! I know him well and I trust him well. But I almost said, can I just see that in the codex?
Yeah.
I almost said it because it is that powerful that I couldn't believe my eyes.
So what we have here, this was...
I know, a sleeper army.
Yeah, this was a clash of ideologies. You had the Harlequins, fast, extreme high firepower, but...
Great fashion sense.
But durability, low.
Well, 4-up invuln on
4-up invuln, but if you... fail it, they do die.
Durability low from your perspective because you've got a load of Daka.
Versus, not as fast, not as much firepower, but inch-thick armour. You know, inches of thick armour on every...
Really interesting, like, thinking about it, you know, you glance at the two lists on paper, you think, you know, it's a... You know,
he can tag me and still fly off and shoot. I can't do that to him. It was literally
but his
armoured
invulns, which are like 50% of his army... don't come in.
Yeah.
And also his -1 because you've got that much firepower doesn't massively come into effect.
The Conquerors helped.
So much. Yeah, the Conquerors, exactly.
So you had the armoured fist versus the velvet glove.
Love it.
Now, fortunately, I did get first turn, not siege, just naturally got first turn. But even with first turn, I was at max. I tried lost blocking terrain again. Annie had lightning fast reflexes. I only killed 3. I didn't get first strike, and I only killed 3 of his haywire bikes. But that is 3d6 less shots I'm taking, and I haven't had to take 18d6 haywire shots on my first turn. So actually, it's like 21d6 less shots if I take turn 1.
Absolutely, because you would have taken 2 blasts of that instead of 1, so you've cut out a lot of firepower there.
So that helped. But even so, by the Emperor. Like
just a haywire, just in case you listen to this, you're like, what is haywire? When you roll to wound on a 4, it's a mortal wound. 5 mortal wounds.
6 D3.
D3 mortal
and they
wounds.
have to make saves normally.
Yeah. You have to still take your save.
So any 6s he got, I was also having to make saves on. So basically, it was probably the second most cinematic game I had. Well, all the games were very cinematic because apart from the first one, which was just guardsmen punching tanks, which was just funny. But because the first one was mechanized assaults. This was very cinematic. You had Harlequins coming in, tying up tanks, blowing them up, flying away. The Imperial Guard trying to maneuver around armored detachments, against
flash of fusing pistols, cutting turrets in half.
Exactly. You can imagine the guards saying, "Where are they? Where are they?" And the commander saying, "Don't aim for them, aim for the blur."
Yeah,
and all this
kinds of stuff.
You got to lead them. You got to lead them.
Get some.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Every 50, get on that 50. Someone get on that 50. So it was a really cinematic game.
I can tell.
It was. Me and Jez were literally slinging the, he was saying you pathetic Mon K and all that kind of stuff. It was going back and forth. Banter was flowing, and it was a really close game. It's very difficult to describe because again it was beachhead, so it's whoever was controlling that middle objective was winning.
And good and also heartbreaking.
And so he was flying onto it. I was pushing him off. He was then pushing me off from literally it was like 4D chess. Like everything was coming from different angles. You could see the calculations going through each player's heads. It was fantastic. Really, really good game. My rolling was pretty average. Jez had quite swingy look at occasions. It was just eye-watering how much his firepower was.
And then some
and
stuff
then
like
next turn, it would come back to me, and he would be making 4-up saves like there were 5-up saves, and he was losing men just a little bit too quickly. And inch by inch, the guard was pushing him off the middle objective a bit more each turn. Every turn, another couple of bikers fell. Every turn, a transport got knocked out, and the troops had to try and footslog it. And every turn, a chimera was not quite then dying, surviving on 1 or 2 wounds, and a couple of my guardsmen were on top of ruins, occupying the whole space. We couldn't fly up there, so we couldn't tie them up because there was nowhere for them to perch. So they were blasting 18-inch rapid fire rounds, first rank fire, second rank fire, every turn. So I don't care you got a -1 to hit. I'm just slinging so much shit at the wall. It's eventually eking it out.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was
got that volume.
It was cinematic because inch by inch, through bloody numbers and attrition, the Imperium pushed the Elder off the board.
And that's like how it should be, in the nicest possible way. I don't know Harlequin lore that well at all, so apologies if I'm wrong here. But I can't imagine a Harlequin force, although they can cut through tanks with those pistols, they, dancing around, be wherever they can be. You're facing an army here. It's guerrilla warfare versus an army. Guerrilla warfare can do a lot of damage to the army, but the army's still there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Just battered, but it's still there. It's sat there as an army.
Exactly. And I mean, he was rapping and trapping. Don't think he was like killing things and leaving himself out
Jez's
the open.
a great player. He knows everything.
He was rapping and trapping consistently and tagging consistently. But again, I had learnt. If this had been a game we played against 12 months ago, I think he would have won. But I'd learned no 2 Lehman Russes were within 12 inches of each other.
Yeah.
So we couldn't ever tag more than 2.
So just let me ask you a question at this point, like straight off your head now. Top 3 tips if you're playing a mechanised guard list against speedy Eldar, like a fast army that want to trap you.
You need to. I learnt this through playing when Custodes Bikers were the meta.
Okay.
So they were fast, they were tough, they were everything. You do not have a fire-based castle. You have 3, maybe 4. Sometimes a lone tank and a lone chimera is a castle in inverted commas.
5 positions, basically.
5 positions. You want 3 minimum, 5 potentially fire positions. And so if one castle gets tagged, wrapped up, destroyed, the other one is still in the game. If he wraps 2, 3, you've still got 2 fire positions available. At no point is he able to tag your whole firepower.
Yeah.
And sometimes
then you just pull out of combat if you can.
And he can't ever.
Shooting, but
and the thing with 40k is, even if he's wrapping and trapping with 80% of his army, that means 20% of his army is exposed.
And you kill that.
And you kill that 20%, and then the next turn you kill the next 20%, and again by turn 5.
It's like how when I fight your guard, if you have 3 squads, in cover, and 1 squad just running across a bit of open ground towards some kind of advantageous position, even if I really need those squads in cover killed, I'll shoot the guys who are in the open, just because it's all about trimming the fat. It's a war of attrition, getting rid of you. And
yeah.
that tactic is valid in these kinds of situations.
Exactly.
Useful.
So the end result was the guard did win. It was a difficult victory. We only had, I think, 2 chimeras left, 1 infantry squad, 1 commando, 1 Lehman Russ. But Jez did lose. He was tabled. But it came down to, there was nothing left on the board pretty much.
Yeah.
No sentinels, no tank commanders. That was.
You got to kill them dead, otherwise they'll jump onto objectives. Everything has to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Kill those damn space witches, space elves, whatever you want to call them. The guys with the hats.
Yeah, exactly. So end of day 1, we had 1 major loss, 2 major wins.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. So day 1 done. Boxed off, and you're in a good position, you're in a strong position. What were you thinking at this point? Were you thinking, I could get that best general? Was that at the forefront of your mind? Or, you've beaten a guard player, a pure guard player at this point, have you? Or not?
Yeah.
You have, yeah. So
my first opponent wasn't a pure guard player, so it didn't count for best faction. Second opponent was a pure guard player, and by smashing him hard, I'd basically taken him out of the running.
Yeah.
But I will be honest, I had actually forgotten about best in faction at this point.
Yeah, your mind's not on this. And for those of you who haven't been to a big tournament, it's hard to understand. You are wired off it. Your brain is going 1,000 miles an hour because you've been thinking of a load of rules, you've been playing against a load of things, you've had to adapt to various situations you weren't necessarily expecting. and you sort of step out the door on the first day from the gaming centre, and your brain's still going at that pace, and very soon afterwards you will find out, because it's posted online, your next faction, your next drawing, what do they call it in the tournament? Just
next round.
Next round, you find out who you'll be playing in the next round and what list they've got, because all the lists are posted online. So that is the perfect opportunity for your brain to just grab hold of that and just start going at 1,000 miles an hour and start thinking about what you're going to do. It can be really hard to settle down, and often I think it's actually a good idea to switch off and relax, make sure you eat something. It's genuinely, sometimes you don't want to eat, you've lost your appetite from a big tournament, I find.
I have to force myself. I will go a whole tournament without eating or drinking anything until I get home, and I don't realise how fucked I am until I'm like a puppet with my strings cut.
Yeah.
You don't realise, and I have to force myself, go and you've got half an hour for lunch for a reason. Don't mess around with your models or anything.
Don't pack them all away.
Don't put them on the tray. Go and get your lunch. Go and get another drink in you. And this was the second tournament, but I was really on top of that. I got my lunch. I was constantly drinking, and I can tell you, it makes a huge difference.
And also to your mood, genuinely. I mean, I'm not, I can get hangry, just like the next guy. But when you're playing a tournament, you are in an intense situation, not super intense. I'm not trying to sound weird here. I'm just saying, your brain is fired up. You're thinking a lot. You're in the zone. That's what I'm looking for. You're in the zone, and you can get overtired. And I've thrown games a lot, many years ago. But when I was first getting to tournaments, frequently I would throw my 4th or 5th game of a tournament because I'd just be sick of playing. Because I'd be like, I'm against Eldar, and I'm gonna get killed by this list, and there's no point, and I've not thrown the game intentionally. I've played my hardest, but I've probably not seen options that I could have otherwise seen, just because I'm tired, I'm worn out.
Or you make a decision.
Or I make a wrong decision because of I've got a negative mindset, or because I'm just tired, I'm worn out.
Yeah.
And if you eat and try and stay hydrated during a tournament, honestly, best tip you can take away from this video.
Yeah, definitely.
Hands down.
Yeah, so I saw my list. I saw my opponent that I was going to be facing, and I was like, oh my god, it's another Elder bike list.
Just done one.
And this one was another.
What type of Eldar?
It was every Elder that is in the universe. There was Dark Elder. There was Dark Elder.
My drink everywhere.
There was Dark Elder. There was Craftwood Elder, and there was just a seasoning of Yunari. Not too much, obviously, because Yunari been nerfed now.
Just a sprinkle on the top.
A little bit of that, like chocolate stuff they put in your coffee of Yunari, basically.
Little nuggets of shit.
Yeah, little nuggets of shit of Yunari. So, first thing, my opponent, absolute gentleman.
Okay.
Has to be met. I mean, every opponent so far has been great, but just should be noted out that this guy was, never met him before, and we got on like a house on fire.
Brilliant.
Absolutely
Love
great.
it.
And we had a bit of a joke because he would ask, because he would look at my list and he would go, so do you have any line of sight ignoring? And I'd go, no, line of sight ignoring is for cowards. And he'd go, so do you have any psychic? And I go, no, psychic is for cowards. And there was this theme where every time he would ask me a question, I'd go, no, because that's for cowards. And so we had that back and forth. So it was very much, and he got it. He got the banter and all that kind of stuff. So we were on the same.
Sometimes you just set up your models, someone cracks a joke, and you just think, we're going to get along.
So first thing to mention that, but the list itself was, he had 10 Reaver jet bikes with grav talons.
Love it.
Good for
Love Reaver jet bikes.
Very fast. They can go so far.
They can go 18 inches or 16 inches plus an 8-inch automatic advance. So if they advance, they still get the negatives advancing, but it's 8 inches flat.
He had a way, and apologies, all these Eldar look the same to me, but he had a way of being able to move
and
advance and charge.
Yes, that's one of the cult things.
Okay, fine.
So Reaver jet bikes in themselves can, or if they choose to advance, they advance 8. His Reaver jet bikes can advance and charge because of the cult of witches that he's chosen. Because you've got cabals and you've got cults. It's like army-wide regiment traits within regiment traits.
So, and it was Dawn of War. Wasn't a short. There wasn't a lot of distance between us.
Honestly, when I'm playing a tournament and I get to a Dawn of War setup, I'm just like, it's like wearing a comfy pair of pants. I'm like, thank God.
It was pointy Dawn of War.
Pointy Dawn of War. I'm still happy with
Spearhead
that.
Assault,
But it's
I think
just
it's
like,
called.
do you know what I mean? It
Have
just
to say
feels like a relief.
Yeah, the games that were Dawn of War were the best ones, to be honest. It was just comfy, like a comfy pair of slippers. That's what it was like.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
on one side, you're on the other.
This is
Let's
Warhammer.
do this.
Yeah, exactly. So he had Rejet bikes. He then had he had 6 squads of Cabalites. 3 of them were in Venoms, and then there's another Venom, which had loads of characters in.
And blasters and everything.
No, bare bones, just objective grabbers.
Interesting.
And but all the Splinter, considering I think between them those vehicles and men are putting out like 60 Splinter shots.
Splinter cannon at rapid fire is 6 shots, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's got 12 per Venom.
And
I think
you've got a
flayed
rifle and a Splinter on each potentially.
And he was flayed skull.
Flayed skull.
I believe.
Is that plus 6 inch range?
It's something he ignored cover.
Basically, Dark Elder are really good, and if you're a Dark Elder player,
gangster.
Then you know. But if you know, you're very lucky because they're beautiful models, beautiful lore. You know, well, not beautiful lore, pretty gnarly lore, but really cool lore. And your army's just great fun to play. And Tim bought me some Dark Eldar for Christmas, and I've been building.
Much to my regret.
I'm at 1,000 points now, and they're just table people turn 2. They are so good, and yet really stylish and cool. Dark Elder, fun game to play.
So squad of bikes, 4 Venoms for with men inside to cap objectives, 2 basic Cavalite squads just to hold any objectives in his half if that's the case, and he had the Yvrain, which is one of the Yunari's Psyker cat lady woman. She's pretty good. And there, but that this is all very manageable.
Yeah.
And then, we get to the Craft World Elder. And as my opponent said, it's whenever he's like, if there's a rule that applies to you, it won't apply to me. Because I'm Elder. And I was like, yeah, I've played you guys enough to know that's how it works. So, Elder can move in advance, and everyone else that move in advance, they've got assault weapons, it's -1 to hit. Not with Craftworlds, because they've got battle focus, and he was playing with the Samhan Wind Rider Host attachment, which let him do some crazy shenanigans.
Let's go into this in detail.
I will do. So he had a Seer Council on bike.
Right.
9 warlocks. Each one's got a Witchblade. So Witchblades, for those that you don't know, they always wound on 2s, D3 damage. No AP. Always win on 2s against any target.
Just gotta fuck up that save.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got all the psychic powers. They can go up to a 3+ save, -1 to hit, potentially -2 to hit if he uses lightning fast reflexes. Hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, winning on 2s, 5+ feel no pain.
And fast.
And they can go 44 inches in 1 turn because he can use the power quickening, which means they can move and advance and still charge, and move and advance in the psychic phase and still charge.
And is this 1 squad?
1 squad of 9.
So
you're never going to escape them.
Every time we go through this, I still feel like I'm missing. Just explain that to me again.
Your eyes twitching a little bit.
You're what?
So. And guess what he's facing? An army which he can wrap and trap.
Yeah,
and I should have said, in the first game, my Sentinels got wrapped and trapped, and I mentioned that.
Yeah, this is what we're going to talk about.
And the third game, Jebs was wrapping and trapping Sentinels to protect them a lot. And in my 4th game, my Sentinels were getting wrapped and trapped.
Because it only takes 25
It's a tri-point.
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
tri-point.
If you can imagine a Mercedes star with your model in the centre of the logo,
and 3 enemy models.
Just 1 on each point. That will trap a Sentinel.
Indefinitely.
Done.
Yeah, so and he got first turn. So
interesting.
So I'd proven I could beat an Elder bike list if I went first.
What I find funny about this is you will have probably dreamt partly about facing this list. You will have thought about it whilst eating your
I
dinner.
basically had faces this 3 times before I got to the table.
Yeah.
Because I had dreamt about it.
Yeah. Like, your brain will have just been going wild over this list, and yet, when you get there, did all that thinking help you?
No.
No.
It was... because you've never faced a list like this before.
Until
I had never faced
yeah.
it. My opponent, nicest guy in the world, I think he tried to put a little bit of the voodoo in me, not knowing that I'm the voodoo master. And he was like, yeah, I played 34 games of this list and not lost one.
Nice.
And I was like, well, this is the day.
35, not... Well, what was your Mordian regiment number?
234.
So, 34, not one step further.
34, not one more.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
exactly.
My regiment motto, which I only came up with before this tournament, was the 234 kicking down your door.
Either way, he's not going to see that number 35.
He's not going to see that number 35. So I don't know how we. I think he didn't smash every one of his opponents, which is how, even though I'd lost one game, I ended up placing against this guy.
Yeah, he was getting some minor wins.
No, he was getting consistent wins, but because I'd had 2 massive wins, you know, like I'd got 40 points out of 3 games. He had basically got 40 points out of 3 games.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So, yeah, that's mathematics.
It's science.
Science is just can't be denied. Although science is heresy, so we probably shouldn't say that anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
So he went first, got on amongst me, and wrapped. He wrapped the sit. So
Can I just ask, how did you deploy this time?
Same as I did in the previous game. I had Hammer of Sunderland's tank commander holding the right flank. Then imagine like an equal distance apart. I've got
18-inch distance.
Yeah,
or
about
something?
12 inches
12
apart.
inches.
I've got my next tank, and then my next tank, my next tank equally across. Actually, it was a little bit. Actually, I had the tank commander and a plasma on the right flank, and then 1 plasma in the centre, and the 2 conquerors on the left flank. So it's like it goes 2-1-2.
That makes sense.
And then I had chimeras again forming, but I tried to be quite clever with my chimeras, so it would go sort of chimera, sentinel, chimera, all next to each other, so that he couldn't ever get that he couldn't wrap all 3.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I'd learned from the first 3 games.
You made your little castle still wide enough in your model.
It was really long.
That it was hard to spread around.
Yeah, it was really long.
Could wrap like 4 castles in one
It didn't
go.
work.
Yeah,
but but we tried.
But, you know, it's the thought that counts.
Exactly. It did present a few. Oh, I can trap 3 vehicles in one kind of thing. But then I'm not quite trapping it so the infantry can't get out.
Yeah.
So
the
it's like
infantry can
it's
still
wheels.
jump out.
Then rather than trapping 1 and no one can escape, I'm going to trap 3, but all the infantry can jump out.
But it's only 10 guardsmen.
But it's 10 guardsmen, rapid fire, armoured fist potentially. So, and he's elder. He has speed, and one particular unit is quite bloody durable, but the rest of his army isn't.
No, toughness 4.
Toughness 4. I can wound venoms on 5s. I mean, that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
I can
Using a vehicle on 5 with a last gun. You know
you
complain about
exactly.
There.
So his turn 1 flies forward. Doesn't he does kill? He kills the sentinel. Oh no, this is actually very interesting. He goes down. He sees the Hammer of Sunderland's tank commander. He knows what that can do. He's not faced conquerors before, but he knows what the Sunderlands can do. So he goes for. So doesn't get it turn 1, but he does wrap and trap it, and he's definitely going to get it.
So you're not shooting those Thunderhammers down range.
No, exactly. But then his Reaver Jet bikes with there's an autarch in there as well that lets him do some crazy shit. I don't quite know.
It's hard to keep track, isn't it? You're like, what's been done to me?
Exactly. And he went in and his autarch did too well and blew up the Chimera, which meant the bikes the Reaver Jet bikes and the autarch were free. So autarch did too well.
Right.
I mean, I think he did fine because he blew up a Chimera, but my opponent didn't want to kill that Chimera.
Yeah.
So what happens? 3 Lehman Russes turn round, and the Hammer of Sunderlands turn round, delete the autarch and the Reaver Jet bikes surrounding it.
And that's like 10 Reaver Jet bikes is like 250 points.
That's
They're
10
not
Reaver Jet.
cheap.
That's a lot of mobility gone from his list.
And what did he have? Did he have heat lances or blasters?
I don't know, but he had the grav talons.
He had the grav talons, which are mortal wound on a 4
Yeah.
up for the model that's carrying it.
Because
when
he
gets
has
into
to
combat.
use the grav talons. They're what forced him to put like 3 mortal wounds on the Chimera, which
Yeah.
that then forced it to blow up.
Yeah.
So actually, and it blew up big style. Like it did 3 wounds to everything. Now I can take 3 wounds on a tank. He can't take 3 wounds.
You
on
lose a
auto.
bike and you just don't, you know, they're easy enough to kill off as it is. Even with combat drugs, yeah, you can get Reaver jetbikes up to toughness 5, and you will. If you're facing Reaver jetbikes, they're going to be toughness 5. Just take that as granted. They'll have that combat drug. But, you know, they're still very easily killable, and when those explosions go off and do those mortal wounds, it's just losses you cannot afford as an elder player, or you don't want to be seeing anyway.
Exactly.
And it's easy kills compared to the amount you have to invest in something if it's -1 to hit and all this kind of stuff. I mean, you just mortal wound something when it blows up, it's a nice... You know what I mean? Something goes your way for once.
It's the only vehicle that did blow up, and it was really good. That it did. Like, nothing else blew up. I'm still Legion are too reliable and sometimes. But that's because, as Zach Brannigan taught us, exploding is for cowards, so that's why they don't blow up.
When I'm in charge, every mission's a suicide mission.
Exactly. So, I realised that City Council is just going to cause me. It's going to cause me bad things, but it's going to cause me a bad time. I'm going to have a bad time again.
You're going to have a bad time.
But I deleted his Reaver jetbikes and his auto. Quite a bit of manoeuvrability gone. I stripped away a couple of his cavalry units, so I'm removing his obsec. Whilst a couple of my chimeras are trapped, I jump the infantry out, start holding objectives. Scouring, by the way, the scouring with Maelstrom, pretty basic.
I love that mission.
Yeah, and this is where the Kree company commander became the hero of the entire tournament, right? So he jumps out, and I delete the bikes, and that's pretty much my turn. But what I do is very
make
cleverly...
them tough on the in Krieg, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Very cleverly, I took my Hammer of Sunder's tank commander and put him right in the corner of the map. Now,
Even
some
if
would
you say so yourself.
Yes. Now, some would consider that very foolish, because if he's right in the corner, he will never be able to retreat, and it's very easy to wrap and trap.
Mm-hmm. True.
But that is a very tempting target,
Mm-hmm.
and that means if my opponent goes for that, I have made my opponent react to me.
Yeah. It's sort of...
I am playing his.
Yeah.
I'm playing him. And you can say all you want about having a million attacks that win on 2s, but if you have no AP, as we have said when people have got 3-up invulnerable saves, I can just be a bastard with 3-up saves. I can just make a load of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I do that, it's happened to me so many times that if I then do it, you get a sense of sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
And that is essentially what happened. My opponent blows up my Chimera, what he was wrapping in his turn, he blows up in my turn, swings around to his turn, he goes, and he does the same thing to the Hammer of Sunder's tank commander.
Fair enough.
But that's, again, he's reacted to, he's done what I want to do, and now that means his City Council
are
miles away, character support, not near the character support.
Yeah.
So, suddenly...
I mean, they can be 44 inches in a turn, but...
if they're with characters.
If they're with characters. That's the key. You know, it's not just, this jetbike flies 44 inches. You can do it, but you've got to... There's a couple of boxes you've got to tick for that. And let me just... I know it can be difficult, when you're listening and someone's trying to describe a battle report, and it can be difficult to sort of visualise where everything is. But what you've got to understand is Cali is done on chess clocks, which means you have 90 minutes to play your game.
And if you use your 90 minutes up, you stop.
And they can carry on. So let's say me and Tim are playing, and I spend 90 minutes on my first 3 turns. Yeah. Tim gets then to use his turn 4 and his turn 5. I don't roll a dice.
I just kill you.
Yeah, he just gets to carry on using.
You get to make saves, but that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, he just acts, and I had my 90 minutes. Really cool. I love it because it stops slow play. It keeps everyone efficient, and people are sort of aware of it, so they bring efficient armies that they know how to use. People don't think, oh, well, I've read about this and it's really powerful, but they don't want to risk fucking it up and risk running out of time and being run all around. So it's just, you can't really be taking pictures. There's no time to slow the game down. You just got to go, go, go.
I just took pictures at the end in between rounds.
Yeah, just when you get the opportunity.
Very little pictures actually in game. But what it means is, for both sides, it means you have to make a decision quickly.
Yes.
You have to make that judgment call. There's no umming and ahhing. So my opponent saw Hammer of Sunderland's, had to make a decision. That thing's going to snipe a City Council person a turn. I've got to get it.
Yeah.
naturally, because if you hadn't gone for that, then
it rewards,
that's smashing him in the back every turn. So it's
it
a catch-22.
rewards experience. It rewards being a good player.
Yeah.
It's straight up rewards being a good player. It also, unfortunately, rewards like Custodians and Knights players who have like 4 models or 4 units. So it rewards them too.
Exactly.
But you know, can't do right for doing wrong. Can't do wrong for doing right. Whatever.
So in his turn, the infantry that jumped out the chimeras, they'd done some damage. They get stripped down, apart from Krieg Company Commander, who lives and gets in a duel with the Farseer, doesn't take any damage, and puts a wound on the Farseer in return.
Nice.
With his little 4-point power sword.
Yeah.
This was to be an omen.
4-point power bayonet. He's Krieg.
It's more like power chopper. This thing. It's a bit old. It's a trench. It's a trench hacker.
Entrenching tool.
Yeah. So you know he's used.
He really digs trenches.
Yeah, exactly. You know he digs them with a sword, so you know he's hardcore. So this was the beginning of. This should have been. My opponent should have realised that when this Krieg commander lived, his fate had already been sealed.
Yeah. Messing with the wrong...
Yeah, you're in the wrong neighbourhood. This is Krieg. The
elders, they're like, oh, I got dirt on my cape.
Yeah, this is one badass motherfucker. It's on his wallet, so he knows what he's doing. So, but that meant my right flank was just getting dominated by Elder Bike, Psychic Powers,
Seer Council,
all this shenanigans. But the centre had been cleared, and the left flank was advancing strong.
So the Reaver jetbikes had hit the centre and been cleared off the centre.
The right flank had been cleared of Venoms. He had loads of Dark Elder characters. They were eventually cleared about turn 3, turn 4. But generally speaking, the left flank was very much in the guard control.
It was driving at a castle and getting blown apart as it happened.
The right flank was lost, but it wasn't dead. What I mean by that was it was going to die.
He was having to still make decisions, spend time on the right flank. It wasn't wrapped up and done.
Exactly. They were all going to die. It was all acceptable casualties on that side, but he had to spend turns to actually kill it.
Yeah. And it still had to be done. Just because it was a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
There was a lot to do to get that result.
So what happened is one of my tanks was sat on one of the objectives scouring, and he didn't have any OBSEC around. He was like kept tagging it with venoms and stuff. So there was no OBSEC really on that side of the board. So it was a case of who could get the most non-OBSEC models around there. Now I had a tank command, so we only needed like 2 venoms at the time to do it.
But
then I had Krieg Commander guy who and I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but because sort of turns 2 and 3 and 4, turns 2 and 3 and 4 were kind of him clearing out the right flank and me securing the centre and left flank and getting quite a lot of board control, which is important. And over those 2 turns, 3 turns, Krieg Commander charged into a Venom, did 2 wounds in his turn, did 2 wounds to it. Then in the next turn, told himself, did another wound to it in my opponent's fight phase. Then it came back to his turn again. Ordered himself to fix bayonets, did another 2 wounds, then fought in the fight phase and killed it.
I know most people listening to this will be guard players, but for those who aren't, or for those who are new guard players who just come across this video,
4 rounds of combat.
Do not overlook that stratagem. Do not think
from an opponent.
Order. From an opponent's perspective, when they don't pull out, you think, "Oh, great! I'm going to hack these guardsmen apart." Then when they say, "Right, I'm going to
fight you twice,
use the order fixed bayonets," and they're going to fight you instead of shooting you. Still strength 3 attack, still good, and then they're going to fight you again in the combat phase, probably striking first. If they, it's not good.
Think about it this way: it's one of the things. It's the whole.
It is good. It's not.
It's
good
the whole
to face.
principle of that army I faced in the first list, and it's why that game and this game with the Krieg guy really opened my eyes up to assault guard.
Yeah.
You are. Other armies have to spend 3 CP to fight again. I can do it on every squad with an order for free.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's such a big deal. Everybody knows if you're a Blood Angels player or any kind of Astartes player, Honour the Chapter is a really good stratagem. When you don't quite get that result you need, spend the command points, Honour the Chapter, strike again with a unit. It happens. I use that a couple of times a game sometimes, depending on what command points I've got spare. Sometimes I won't use it, but it's just there when you need it. It gives you that reliability. So to get it across an entire army for free, it's just officers, which you're going to take anyway.
Yeah.
It's crazy good.
I mean, in my army,
With Catachan.
Yeah, in my Steel Legion, it's not a big deal, and it's a bit of a toolbox. It comes out when it needs
toolbox tactic. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm thinking this is a big one for Guard that has been overlooked.
Yeah, something that we can definitely look into. You want to be focusing on that.
But anyway, going back. So I mentioned earlier about this battle that if someone just makes a bunch of 3-up saves, it can really screw with your plans. So that Seer Council should have, if they were wrapping a Tech Priest Engine Seer and who's got power armor, and they were wrapping a Tank Commander. Now statistically, my opponent should have killed both of those in one turn. He didn't, simply because he made me take 16 3-up saves on a Tank Commander, and I only failed 3.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
lucky.
Should have failed 5.
Yeah.
D3 damage on each one. Should have killed me.
But when you're... This is the thing. There's, like, steps to dealing damage, right? And it's the reason why some weapons just... They run out of steam before the damage gets dealt. You know, you've got D3 attacks, not a set amount of attacks. Or D6 attacks, not a set amount of attacks. That's a chance for the attack to run out of steam before it's even started rolling dice, because you've not got the shooting. Then you've got to wound again. Then they've got to save 3-up in this case. Then it's D3 damage, which means there's so many times when you can just roll a load of 1s to wound, roll a load of 1s and 2s on your D3.
Yeah, exactly.
Roll a load of 1s and 2s when you're generating attacks for some shooting attacks. It's not reliable.
It's why in 8th edition, Games Workshop makes you pay through the nose for flat damage weapons.
And flat output weapons. Like shooting a flat 6 shots or flat 8 shots from, let's say, flat 8 from the Dorado. You don't randomise the amount of shots you fire from that Dorado. You get 8 shots. Yeah. Whereas, let's say, a Siegebreaker cannon on the back of a Knight, it's a random amount of shots. It's just, it's pretty reliable, especially if you've got 2 sets. But you can roll all 1s. It can happen.
I mean, there's a reason why there's a difference. Only a difference of 7 points between the Exterminator autocannon and the Battle Cannon. Because the Battle Cannon is higher strength, it's better range, it's better AP, it's D3 damage. But it only does D3 damage, so that could mess it up. And it's only D6, well, 2D6 on a grinding advanced leading rush shots. The Exterminator is always putting out 8 shots and it's always putting out 2 damage, and that's why Games Workshop keeps those weapons relatively close together price-wise.
It's why
only 5 point difference.
Yeah, it's why Knights love Gatling guns. The Avenger Gatling cannon, it's only strength 6. Nothing compared to some of the weapon damage output, strength output that a lot of weapons in the Knights Codex have. But it's 12 shots every time, and it's damage 2 every shot. So it's just consistent. It's good, and this is what you pay a premium for. And again,
my opponent said to me that Seer Council can tear down Knight in 1 turn. Yeah, statistically it can, but it will go against you. And think about it this way:
will it? For 5 games in a tournament, everyone hardcore lists? No. Your luck's going to drop out at some point.
Yeah,
that can lose you a game. It can lose you a tournament.
I mean, and this is the thing, though, which is it's kind of a shadow buff of my army. So Knights, you can get 4 Knights in an army. Each one's got 24 wound. Well, typically you see 3. So 3 Knights are 72 3+ saves.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. Seer Council could go in there and kill one, no problem. But I haven't got only 72 3+ saves. I've got 60 on my tanks. I've got 60 on my Chimeras. I've got another 24 on my Sentinels. I've got 144 3+ saves on my army. Toughness 6, toughness 7, toughness 8. So actually, he was like, oh, my Seer Council should have swept through all your tanks. No, they shouldn't.
No,
you can kill
you've
3.
got as many wounds. You've got 12 less wounds on your tanks than an entire Knight army. Then you've got 6 Chimeras, 4 Armoured Sentinels, all of this on top. All on a 3-up save.
You
don't get the invulns, but you've got the wounds.
And you don't need invulns against those Witchblades because they've no AP. So it's a case of, you can kill 3 Knights. Can you kill 6 Knights?
Because that's how many wounds I've got.
That's how many wounds I've got. I've got 6 Knights with the wounds.
Those tanks are toughness 8, remember? The Chimeras may be toughness 7, but the tanks are toughness 8.
Of course,
always
but all his other stuff.
You forget that you stumble over the Eldar trickery, don't you? You work it out.
So he had, and all it took was 1 bad turn where he got a few 1s to hit and then a few 1s to wound, and then I just made a bunch of saves, and that is all it took. And he had taken, and then his Seer Council had to spend a whole nother turn killing that tank and that engine seer.
Turn they didn't have.
Because he said, oh, I should have killed them both. It's like, well, should you? Because you'd lost a couple of bikes through a bit of Overwatch here and stuff like that.
This and that.
So, and there's 15 3+ saves there. You know, that's actually...
And you're hitting him with no AP.
Not 15, sorry. That's 16. The NGC, I think, has got 4 wounds. 16 3+ save wounds. So actually, that is...
Gonna take. I mean,
I only need 1 wound to survive. I only need 1 wound to survive for you not to be able to do
He's got to do
shenanigans.
48 successful wounds to you, right? And then you, on a 3-up save, you would lose both those models.
It's got D3 damage, but yeah, basically.
Oh, yeah.
D3 wounds. But the point is that I only have to keep 1 of those 16 3+ save wounds alive to fuck his whole plan.
Because the whole tank is still there, whether it's 1 wound or 10.
If it's one wound on the engine sear or 10 or 4, it doesn't matter. It's the same principle.
I understand.
So, and the one time in 35 games that happened, should have done. That's the law of averages. That does come round.
Now, we're not saying here that like D3 damage weapons are crap or like random generation of shot
But
weapons
as
are crap.
we have always said, they will get you at the most inconvenient times.
Yeah, so it's just one of those, you know. It just is what it is.
So my engine seer survived on 1 wound, and my tank commander survived on 3 wounds. He's not done what he's needed to do.
He's had to split his attacks. You just
his whole army is behind 1 turn, and whilst he's you know absolutely doting on this seer council, the rest of his army is being picked apart, taken to pieces, and so turn 4 happens, and it's like we both sort of come up from the... We've both been so intense on the table. We both take a step back to breathe. We've got an hour left on or 40 minutes left in the game, so we're well ahead on time. And he sort of looks around, and I sort of look around, because we're both fighting. None of us have really read the situation fully. And he's like, I've basically got to see a council left.
Yeah, you sort of... That happens all the time. I'm sure everyone has been through this. Where you're like... You start off on the back foot. You play the best that you can. Turn 4 or 5, you step back and you go, oh shit, I'm actually going to win this now. Yeah. Like, you know, but you don't even notice it. You still think you're on the back foot throughout the game until you come up for air.
Exactly. And all his venoms have been killed, and I had board control, and because I had board control, and because his units were so focused on one flank, because that's where, there's a plasma commander, and there's a hammer of sunderance, and there's 20 infantry.
All the stuff he knows is nasty.
But I've just been scoring Maelstrom like there's no tomorrow. And he was like, oh, I'm getting a bad Maelstrom hand. And I was like, well, no, you're not. You're just not across the whole board like
You
I
don't get
am.
a bad Maelstrom hand with Eldar. You just like, what objective to go, oh yeah, I'll go on that.
Exactly.
Oh, okay then. Oh no, it's 72 inches away.
You know, and this is what I realised, and I've said this in the past, my Maelstrom hand's been terrible. No such thing as a bad Maelstrom hand. It's all about board control.
Yeah.
You don't get a bad Maelstrom hand if you're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
Long story short,
so he flies across. So he comes up. Oh, and at this point, my Krieg hero commander had also hacked apart a full 5-man Cavalry squad on his own.
Nice.
So he's killed a Venom and the guys inside, and basically secured an objective single-handedly.
God, that's a lot of points.
He's 34 points.
Yeah,
that's
120
like
points.
Yeah.
He's...
And my other company commander, who started off in my army as a sergeant, he's the guy with the chainsaw and orc head. Started off as a sergeant, got promoted to platoon commander, beginning of 8th, and now he's a company commander, because I needed him to be a company commander, single-handedly took out 2 warlocks in combat, with just a chainsaw.
One of them with the orc head.
One of them clearly with the orc head. Like, literally, the warlocks were just like, why is that, like, monkey advancing towards me with that orc head? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, whilst they were processing it, he just killed them.
Yeah. He throws the orc head at one of them.
He thinks he's, like, intimidating them, but they're just like, what the hell is he doing?
That monkey's knocked my hat off by throwing an orc head at me. Oh no, now he seems to be... I'm dead.
Oh, it's like, you didn't see this in the runes, did you?
Watch this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so, let's wrap it up on this game.
So basically, it got to turn 5, my opponent realised he's killed stuff, but he's only really got a Seer Council left. He's only got 7 left in there. He hasn't got... His buffing characters have been killed. His army has not got a huge amount of board control, and he's still facing down 20 infantry, 2 chimeras, and 3 tanks, 2 conquerors. So he flies across the board and tries to start clearing me out on the other side of the board. But again, I have 3-up saves and everything.
So he's just not getting through you quick enough.
So what happened on that flank happened again on the other flank.
And you know that's the way it's going to go. He knows that's the way it's going to go.
Exactly. And that was it. So the end score, I 20-0'd him.
20-0'd him.
20-0'd him with a list that had won 34 games in a row and on paper looked purpose to beat me. But the thing is, what I realised is, and as we've already said, so I won't go into it anymore, which is, if 20% of his army is exposed versus like 80% of your firepower, that's
kill
only
that
ever
20%.
Do it every turn.
Then next turn there's going to be another 10-20% exposed. Kill that. After 4 turns of doing that, play the ball control game. You will win it. Like,
Exactly.
That's it. And also what I find
that's
with
how
this,
you counter wrap and trap.
I also like to sort of counter voodoo. How you counter voodoo this kind of game is really important. Like, if you see your opponent, and this is just like from experience of like, it's the people game. You know, you've got your models, you've got your dice, but you're playing against a human being as well. Now, if they have this unit in their army that they, you know, it's their golden child, they think it's amazing, you know, stroke their ego, you know, openly fear that unit. Let him think that whatever that unit is doing is the most important part of whatever's going on in the battle. But realistically, what you're doing is the most important part of the battle in the long run, and their unit's just, you know, having some fun, basically, showing off.
Exactly.
That's the way you face it.
My opponent made, like I said,
Great guy.
Great guy, tournament competitive. He's won 3, the last 3 tournaments he's been to, he's won with this list.
Nice.
I've never seen, no one else, this is like a sleeper list, no one else has used this.
Brutal, though.
Brutal.
It's clearly brutal when you serve.
The game after, he beat his opponent in 20 minutes. Turn 1, he beat his opponent.
So he knows what he's doing. He can move models quick and roll dice quick.
But
as
the
well.
thing is, he made, and he said this, he forgot one of the most critical thing that a guard commander has at his disposal.
The Spanish Inquisition.
The Spanish Inquisition, of course. But, is, in the guard, everyone's expendable.
Yes.
And this is what he didn't, this is the one rule he forgot, and he only needed to forget it for one turn, which was, to him, if he was running my army, that Hammer of Sunderer's tank commander would have been the baby, the golden
That would have
child.
been his golden
his
child.
favourite unit.
Investing points in it. Remember, people build armies round units.
Exactly. But to me, that Hammer of Sunderer's tank commander was just a number on a data slate.
Everyone's a distraction, can't effects. Yeah. Everyone's expendable. Kill part of my army, the other part of my army is going to kill you. Kill the other part, that bit's going to kill
you.
How
How many memes do you see on the internet of it's like, you know, guard assault, 97% casualties, total victory?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, exactly.
And that's it.
And that's what.
And that's how they should play, man.
Exactly.
That's how they should play. Right. So, you know, we've learned a lot from that. We've gone over loads of tricks of the trade. So, currently you're on
3 for 1.
3 for 1.
320 nils. So doing good.
Really well. And 2 of those matchups, I would say, were bad matchup. I say the Harlequins were a bad matchup. On the balance of things, having talked through it, I think it was a pretty balanced matchup, to be fair. You know, he relies on that invulns, but you don't really care about invulns. That's not the way you do things. And yes, I think, but I think, you know, the Blood Angels matchup, Guard matchup, that should have been a good matchup.
But it's not.
But because you know Blood Angels and Guard as well as anyone, but it wasn't because of just the list that you took.
Yeah.
Didn't matter how well you understood it. It was going to be an uphill struggle.
Yeah.
Unless you got amazing dice and he did shit. You
Yeah.
would have lost it. But all in all, you know, you've managed to clinch at least one game that you probably should have lost.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, if you had presented the 2 lists to each other and said, who do you think is going to win, to anyone out there, 99 out of 100 times, people are going to say, oh, the Harlequin Bikers,
Yeah.
the Bikers.
And that's not
the
taken
Bikers,
away from Guard. Everyone knows Guard are hardcore motherfuckers. Everyone knows that
just
Guard are
on
difficult
paper,
to beat.
Haywire beats tanks, bikes, wrap and trap.
Yeah, it just like looks like your unit selection, ignoring the forces, ignoring which codex you brought to the tournament, just looked like unit selection versus unit selection. As you say, lists on paper, it looked bad, but you worked it really nicely, and that takes us on to the 5th game.
And the 5th game. So the 5th game was a very bittersweet game because it worked. A little bit spoiler. The ending was perfect, but the journey to get there was fucking horrible. So, facing Genestealer Cult, the guy has a very typical Genestealer Cult list. He's got 60 Brood Brothers, not neophytes. He's simply taken Brood Brothers. At 10 points cheaper per squad, fills out the battalions.
Can I just say, at this point, because we just said, you know, about the list that you face and that kind of thing, you have done a lot of training for this tournament against knights. You played against my knights, you played against Matt's knights. You played 3 games against my Knights just, in the weekend before Cali. Knights are very much quite meta-centric at the moment, and they're very much the gatekeepers to a tournament. If you go to a tournament and your list can't beat Knights, you're not going to be in the top half. Knights players don't necessarily win, don't necessarily place top table, pure Knights especially. But with the Law 32, they can certainly win a tournament, but often they don't. Often better players with more complex armies win the tournament, but everyone who's got into the top half or top third has had to beat a Knights army to get there, and you haven't. You have had bad matchups, but you haven't faced the Knights, which is what you trained against.
So this is so I trained against,
and Gene Steelcourt well, Blood Angels well, Guard well. You face stuff
Yeah, I don't know Elder that well, to be honest.
You don't know Elder.
Now, very good point. We basically going into this tournament, I faced my hardest matchups possible as practice. And then when I came across something that wasn't didn't faze me. Because the thing is with Knights, every list that I had that I could have brought to this list, I had it. It was a case of, because this is the kind of thing with Guard. If I go first against the Knights, I will win. If they go first against me, I will lose. And that was it. So it was a case of, so if I face Knights, it
doesn't mean you can't have fun, but that's the way it's going to go.
That's the way it's going to go.
Most of the time.
Now the thing is, I think there weren't actually that many Knight players there, which was surprising. Because especially with Chaos Knights, I thought there was going to be a huge resurgence.
Would they have been able to submit the list
yes.
of Chaos Knights?
In fact, they extended the list submission deadline by 2 days to give people a chance to bring Chaos Knights.
Nice, but no one...
The Knights that were there were Chaos Knights, but there weren't... There was only like maybe 8 players with Chaos Knights.
Fair enough. Out of 100, 110 people?
About 100 roughly, yeah. So, the thing is, I think the reason I didn't face Knights is because... Game 1 I got smashed, and then I basically submarined. Which is where I went down, went along, and then came back up again.
You came up pretty fast with 2-3 wins.
But the other Knight players typically won all their games.
It's as I said, they're gatekeepers. They go up and they stay high. They can lose a game against someone else and drop down, but they're always in the mid.
Exactly. So
you sort of went below them, and then with 2 victories shot straight above them. You just like jump that bracket.
And they take into account not only if it's 20-0. Or, they take into the victory points, they also take into the amount of actual game points you scored. So, for example, you might have got 20 tournament points, but you also might have won like 60 Maelstrom points, for example, which is... So, because Knights will tend to 20-0 people by tabling them, they don't always get a huge amount of Maelstrom points.
So they're basically not going to win.
So what happened is, I dodged them by going down in the first game, and then by getting so many Maelstrom... In my next 3 games, I went above them.
Very interesting. And that was pure chance, wasn't it?
But
do you think overall it was,
I think, being honest...
We struggle against Knights with the Steel Legion.
If I go first, I win.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I think, being honest, we've talked a lot about Chaos Knights. We've had a little bit of doom and gloom on the channel. I think, and I've spoken to the top competitive players that I know, they say Chaos Knight Resurgence is going to be very short term, and then the Knight meta will drop off. That's what we're expecting. That's the weather forecast.
I think the Knights are there to add to soup. It's very much... I've said it 1,000 times, but Chaos not needed, but arguably there's always that equivalent, isn't there? You've got your Chaos Marines, and you've got your Space Marines. Then you've got your men and women of the Imperium, the Guard, you've got your men and women of the Warp, denizens of the Warp, you've got your demons. They always have to be an equivalent. This is why I don't see Tactical Marines disappearing anytime soon, and I won't go into that whole subject, but as long as Chaos Space Marines exist, there will be an equivalent in the Loyalist Codex. And I think it was just, Chaos Soup didn't necessarily need it, but it certainly should have it.
Exactly. And what this allows Chaos... I mean, look at this, right?
They're there for the soup, in my
opinion. We'll go into the final game in a moment, but what we'll look at is, if you have an Imperial Soup, you have a Knight, you have some Marines with Gilliman, and you have a Loyal 32. Something like that. Maybe it's the Marines, you have Custodians, but it's the same shit, different army.
Yeah. I do like that about soup, in that there's a lot of very strong but very interesting combinations. It's pretty fresh when I'm playing against it.
Chaos can do the same thing now.
Yeah.
You get a Knight, you can take Renegades and Heretics simply for the disloyal 32.
Yeah.
And then now you can take a Baden.
Haven't they got
Gilliman?
Haven't they got like the unclean 13 or something like that? There's like
I don't know.
I've heard mention of like 3 squads of 4 Beastmen and 2 characters or something.
It
like
might
that.
be. Unclean 13 is cool. I like that. Or maybe just Law.
I don't think it
32.
actually adds up to 13, but like basically there's something like that. I've seen it, I've read about it, but it was very brief glance.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Back
that's
on the fifth game.
So fifth game. So you've dodged knights, but you faced
facing Genestealer
Yeah.
Cult, which is again
it's like a redemption. This wasn't it? This literally this tournament was like a redemption.
another
for
Rap
you.
and Trap army.
Another Rap and Trap army. You're being constantly run at by masses of infantry when you are the infantry guy.
There's basically
You know,
I only ever get one turn to shoot it.
Yeah, blooming you faced Blood Angels and Guard, you faced more Guard, you faced Eldar, the historic foe, and then you faced in Genestealer Cult, which is what you betrayed the Imperium for, you scumbag. So,
Well, I'm on my redemption now, aren't I?
So,
game 5 comes along and it starts off. Well, I get first turn, but he doesn't blip everything simply because he made a very good point, which is as Genestealer Cult, if you blip everything, it takes you actually a very long time to then start putting stuff down, and you're doing it. Basically, in the tournament, you get 15-minute prep time, and then the game starts. So actually, each round is like not 2.5 hours long; it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. So if you blip, then when it comes to deploying, you have to do it in your game time, not in your prep time, which I thought was actually a really good way of balancing Genestealer Cult. Really good, because then they can't blip everything, so you actually do know where a lot of shit is.
I don't think they've designed it for Genestealer Cult in mind.
It's an unintentional sort of nerf to Cult, which is what they need.
With Blood Angels, I've been like, I've quickly, like, deployment phase, I've deployed and I've got a few things down. My opponent takes, 10 minutes or so to deploy in total or whatever. I've been, a couple of minutes. But then I'm going to be taking that in my, now second turn, because I'm having to place my units in deep strike. That's when my thinking time comes in. Now that's perfectly reasonable when you're playing across the gaming table, down your club with friends. No one's delaying anyone. But chess clocks, it's critical.
Yeah. So he deploys. He actually deploys. He's got 2 Aberrant Blobs, 10-man Aberrant Blobs, which is like, and then he's got 2 20-man Acolytes with all the Rock Sword Blobs, which is another, like, this is all can opening, and I'm in cans.
Yeah.
And then he's got 20-man Hand Flamer Blob, and then, which isn't that useful against me, to be fair. Not
it's funny though.
And then he's got like all the characters and all the Brood Brothers, so it's like but he does deploy one of it.
Do you have any of the bikes or any of the
No, none of that shit. None of
the fun stuff.
None of the fun stuff.
Genestealers?
Nope. He just had. So he had a very good Genestealer list. There's a reason he had one. I think he'd won 4. So I only won 3, but because he'd won 4 consistently. Oh no, he had lost 1. We were both on 3. We were on equal points, 3 and 1. Now he actually deployed an Aberrant Bomb on the board initially because he had a Psyker which could do Psychic Stimulus, which means it could move, advance, and still charge. Okay. Now, basically, turn 1 and 2, I get first turn, and it goes well, but there's a bit of an omen, right? Which is my luck for my. So I do really well at pushing him out. I'm zoning him out really, really well. My opponent's getting really. He's a nice guy, but he was getting a bit frustrated with how anti deep strike I was being, playing very well. But my shooting, Tank Commander, how many shots? 3. Net Tank Commander, how many shots? 2. Next Tank Commander, how many shots? 4.
So
next tank, how many shots? 2.
What happened to the Eldar guy in your previous game?
Random number of shots came and bit me in the ass.
As it will. In one game, it's going to bite you in the ass, and it's always at the worst time.
And it kept happening. But the funny thing was, is we just laughed it off because it's like, well, obviously the cult have sabotaged the weapons.
Yeah.
And every time, so the few shots I was getting were hitting, and it's like Hammer of Sunderance. 4 shots, 4 hits, kill on 2s, 4 1s.
Of course.
Plasma, 3 shots, 3 hits, 3 hits, 3 1s. Again. And again, it just kept. So to the point where it took my entire 2,000-point army to kill 1 of our Brood Brother squads.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't, and most of it could see. But I had, so turn 2 comes along, and it's, his turn 2 is pretty subdued, obviously, because he's trying to hide some stuff. His Aberrant Bomb does come out to play. He wraps and traps one of the Sentinels, which are, again, rat bait. But it had to because I want to zone him out. My turn 2 comes along, and I do a little better, but it's the same shit again. And then his turn 2 comes along, and the Maelstrom, I'm smashing him on Maelstrom, smashing him, it's all Maelstrom by the way, so I'm smashing him, zoning him out, very frustrating. Turn 2 comes along, he drops in and just starts tagging everything, and it's getting really bad. And then turn 3 is pretty similar.
He's blowing up some stuff, tagging other stuff.
Blowing some stuff, tagging, and my shots are
clogging up your gears.
Yeah, and my we're talking exactly. We're talking 2 chimeras, 2 conquerors fail to kill. They only kill like 6 acolytes, which are guardsmen equivalent. Now, my shots are just not doing it, but I can actually out attrition him, even though I don't have as many bodies.
I mean, this is the interesting thing, because against his army, you know how we said earlier against when you were playing the other guard player, and your specialist weaponry was able to fire at optimum capacity, always had a juicy target. Your heavy weaponry always had a juicy target, and your small arms always had a juicy target. But in this case, you're struggling. Your heavy weaponry isn't firing at optimum capacity, and you're getting bad luck on top, and you're just finding your momentum slow.
Momentum is slow, and because it kept being bad, I don't want to say I lost this game to luck. I didn't. I was still smashing him even with this, okay, but every phase I was having to reach further to claw it back. I don't want to charge that, but I'm going to have to charge it. I don't want to have to do this, but I'm doing it, and every time I'm just keeping the momentum and
every time you make one of those decisions where it's like, I don't want to have to do this, but I have to,
it's
2
a
things.
Short-term game for a long-term disadvantage.
Well, yeah, that's it. You know 2 things that's happening. First of all, you're playing into your opponent's hands. I don't want to have to do this, but I have to. The opponent's done something to you, which has put you in a shitty position.
Yeah.
And secondly, you're gonna pay for those losses in the long run, as you said.
Yeah. And finally, turn 3. I couldn't reach any further. And what happened is there was a 13-man acolyte squad, and I had to kill it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Particularly, it could tag. It was strung out. It could tag so much.
It was going to take 3 tanks out of shooting.
It's going to take half a flank out.
Nice. So he's done well there, positioning it and everything.
Yeah. So this
guy knows what he's doing.
I thought I got a message from the Emperor himself, which was I drew blood and guts, kill something in combat. And I'm like, there's 13 guys there. I can do this. I've got 40 guardsmen, 2 company commanders. I can do this.
The Emperor's tarot has spoken to you.
On reflection, I think the Gene Stealer cult put that card in there. So 40 guys, the ramps come down, the orders go across the line, the bayonets are fixed, the knives are pulled out, and we go in. 40 guards, when everyone makes a charge, the warlord's leading it, flourishing the power sword, orc head guy throwing the orc head, revving the chain sword. 40 guardsmen go in, he doesn't even interrupt, and I only kill 3 acolytes.
Well, I mean, you're not Katachan.
I'm not Katachan. And in return, because basically...
I love how every game up to this point, you're thinking to yourself, you know what, this combat guard... there's something to this combat guard.
I think I got a bit
excited.
Turn,
you thought, this is my time. Combat guard. This is it. This is the meta. Let's do this.
I'm going to wrap and trap you, bitch.
Yeah.
And in return, his acolytes, the blood was up. And they just went berserk. Everything hit, everything wounded. It's all AP -1 minimum, and 28 guard fall, and he kills the rest in his turn.
Wow. Because I was in your charge. I hate giving away a bad charge when it turns against you, and then they've got to strike against you.
Exactly.
Heartbreaking.
And that lost me the game.
Yeah, of course.
But the thing is, it shouldn't have done.
It's half your infantry.
But I should have known. Because my luck was being under.
It's a combination of factors. You're thinking about things in a certain way. It's the 5th game of the day.
You make a snap decision.
Because you're on the clock.
And as I'm doing it, I'm moving the models. It's like an out of body experience. And I'm there thinking I shouldn't be doing this, but I've done it now.
Were you thinking, yes, this is my moment?
Yeah, it was a bit.
When you've been playing the whole game trying to grab stuff back, you thought, this is the one thing where I don't have to scrabble. Maybe this will turn it around for me.
It was a Hail Mary. This was it. It was
do or die.
It was do.
We've got to take that ridge, man.
No matter how many bodies, we have to take that ridge. Now, what I should have done on hindsight, and you learn more from your losses than you do from your wins. What I should have done is I was out attritioning him. Eventually,
done what you did to the Elder and the
done what I did to the Elder, and eventually because he was getting so frustrated by how I had him in about 25% of the board because of how much I'd zoned out and how things were positioned. But I should have just played the long game, because even after all, I lost all my infantry and then he started carving the tanks. Even after all that, I got him down. I still had 2 tanks at the end of the game, a Chimera and 10 infantry, and he only had like 20 acolytes and a character.
The impetuousness of youth.
Exactly. So I should have just played the long game.
Held back.
Tactical. Because I pushed out. I should have then reeled in.
You'd been hit. But everyone knows, and especially the thing with Genestealer Cult, I know, you know better than me for sure, that, if you can get through that initial first 3 turns when they're like hitting you with this thing appearing from nowhere, hitting you with this thing appearing from nowhere, oh, rock grinders, oh, blooming acolytes, everything going to hell, they struggle to hold on. Like, Genestealer Cult do not like a 7-turn game. They do not like a 6-turn game.
No.
If you're a Genestealer Cult player, better than anyone else, you do not want that game to go to turn 7. It's all bells and whistles and spicy, crazy crap and that, but then you run out of that.
Exactly, and I should have done a orderly withdrawal. I should have accepted he's going to wrap and kill that, but then I'll kill the 20%. Wrap it, should have accepted that. But like I said, it was a little bit. There were 3 factors at play. 1, it was the last game of the tournament. I was tired, and you make bad decisions when you're tired. 2, I was having bad luck, and I was having to go for that scramble.
3, the guy's got a great list and knows how to use it.
But this is my own faults kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
And 3.
So did you not have lunch or?
No, I did, but again, it's still like I've only had like 2 Subway bits of Subway. Like, it's not a huge amount. I'm still a bit.
The 2-inch sub.
Yeah,
slices,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the final point was basically I got voodooed.
You got voodooed.
I voodooed myself.
Voodooed yourself.
So that's which I've learnt now with the Steel Legion, that they may seem like sort of a more of an elite.
And you're hungry for that combat.
And I'm hungry for it. I've not had a bayonet charge all tournament, not a mass 40 guard one. So maybe the inner Mordian sort of came out, and
the Imperium can't win everything. It always wins glory, but it can't win every engagement.
Okay.
So after all of that, what was the final result?
So the final result was I lost, but it wasn't a 20-0. It was 17 points to my opponent, 3 to me, because even with that bad mistake, I did grind him out. But he surged board control, and then I was on the back foot.
Fair enough. Just he won, you lost. It was a good game.
I made a mistake. He didn't.
You made a mistake. He didn't. Straight up.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. And you've won plenty of games at this point. So you must have been on, upstairs in Element Games, so to speak, on the top tables.
Yeah. I was that table I was on. I'd got to table 6.
You got to table 6, so you'd fought your way from a 20-0 loss all the way up. Yeah. So there we have it. So you lost that game as well. So it was
3 wins, 2 losses.
3 wins, 2 losses. 3 tables and 2 major losses, but only tabled once, or only 20-0.
Basically, yeah.
All in all, came probably in the top half, I would estimate from that.
21st, 24th.
So you came top quarter,
yeah,
give or take, and best in faction. So happy essentially.
Yeah.
And now you've learnt a lot. We've spoken about a lot. We won't go over it because I'm sure this is getting on to like 2 hours now.
Yeah.
But is Mech Guard dead? Would be the sort of big question that comes to mind.
No, definitely not. I think going into that tournament, a lot of people saw my list and underestimated it. I'm not going to go over it. I won 3 games easily. Should have won 4 games easily, and if I'd gone first in the first game, would have won that. So I want to say that Mech Guard could have easily gone 4-1. Had the potential. They had some bloody ignore line of sight blocking stuff.
With a little bit of movement around, a few points, a few dropping the Sentinels, see what that can get you. Wyverns, are they out of line of sight shooting?
Yeah, I think Wyverns are.
So you can keep your mech, but drop those Wyvern shots.
I think Mech Guard is very strong, and it's simply It's strong for two reasons. One, people don't see it. People don't come across it. So they don't... It's like...
They're used to using that. They think the points I've spent on Daka, when I know I've got a guard opponent, are points well spent.
Exactly.
Not today.
No.
AP -1 against guards, you know, they're saving on 6s, or their tanks are 4s, you know, against your Steel Legion. No.
Exactly. And I think...
Would you take Steel Legion again? Or would you go...
I think so.
Yeah?
I think...
if you hadn't taken Steel Legion, what regiment?
Talan would have been good, because... well, it's one of those, because like, Talan would have been good because I could have moved everything. I'm not worried about the -1 to hit for moving and shooting with heavy weapons. But then I would have only had a 12-inch rapid fire range.
And
which,
people were coming to you.
Yeah, and I only had 12-inch would have only had a 12-inch rapid fire range, and that... Every game I used the 18-inch rapid fire to my advantage over my opponent.
And it was worth having
and
over...
It was worth having it.
Cadians, over...
Exactly.
Catachans. Don't Catachans have something good with their tanks?
They can re-roll the number of random shots on one of the dice.
So that'd be good, for some of your tanks at least.
It would have... Yeah, Catachans would have been good, but again, the AP
you would have had the
-1...
+1 strength.
The AP -1 came to effect, even in that last game, with like... all his aberrants were using like... All his attacks in close combat are -1. Even his aberrants with the improvised weapons are -1, so I just ignored it.
And -1, when you've got it in combat, you think, yeah, this is great, because, you know, it's chipping away, it's helping you out, especially troop-on-troop combat.
Exactly.
You take often enemy troops down to a 6
That was the most frustrating thing about that last game, because all his close combat was only -1, he was only able to reliably kill one tank a turn with each squad, and in his head he was thinking he should be able to kill 2. So... Again, the -1 was big. I actually think...
It's just the difference between those 3 wounds that stops the tank from... You know, the tank doesn't quite blow up.
Exactly.
And you just think, God damn it, it's still sat there.
It is big. I think it's a bit anti-meta. Definitely, every single game, it came into effect.
And it's very meta now, because, it's anti-meta in that the meta is not spending points on...
big guns.
Big AP.
Yeah.
And... the little AP, you know, assault cannons, that kind of thing. Not that assault cannons are, you know, mega meta, but just saying, you know, there's a lot out there that it can help you with.
Exactly. Now, improvements. It needs ignoring line of sight blocking. Depends how willing you are to break with the theme. I could have taken mortars, but then that's not mechanized. So if I was to really be puritanical about this, I would drop the sentinels because they are just wrapping bait. The las cannons rarely came into effect. If you're going to take sentinels, you don't really need... Las cannons do make them a bit of a distraction kind of effect, but not really.
Not enough.
Not enough. I think missile launch would be better simply because in a pinch you can use D6 bolter shots from it. But I would drop the sentinel, but that's not enough to justify it, I think. I think they're good.
How many points would you spend out of a 2k list?
I would drop 4 sentinels and take 2 Wyverns.
And that would be enough line of sight blocking. You reckon that's enough in ITC?
I think it's not going too hard down one route. I think it's a sprinkling that helps you.
Yes, the sprinkling that changes it, and then you can get into those buildings with your own guardsmen, stab people up when you need to with bayonets. Fair enough. And so,
only other change would be if I was going Steel Legion, I would definitely swap. I've obviously can't do this for but I would swap out the heavy stubbers for storm bolters.
Yeah,
that's now that is
just a little thing. Yeah. But it's all about those efficiencies, isn't it?
It is bad, because I was often mech assaulting with chimeras.
Your list is very distilled. How long have you had this now? A year and a half? Something like that?
Yeah.
So, and you've been playing with it against me at least, not necessarily on the channel or, you know, competitively when it's been unpainted. So you've had plenty of time to practice. So, I mean, you know it now. You've distilled this list so much that there's only a few tweaks that could really be made each time. The sort of ripples in the warp from the meta changes.
It's very... There's not a huge... The biggest change is the loss blocking. You know, dropping stubbers for storm bolts isn't a big change.
9 inches out of a tank and charge into them, you're good to go.
Exactly.
I mean, the Catachan could be good. It could be really good. Something to consider. Definitely we'll have to get a bat rep up where you're using your Steel Legion as Steel Catachan.
Exactly.
Steel Rose.
I think, relatively speaking, I think the list is... It's good.
It's good. I mean, you know, it was the best guard list at Caledonian Revolution, so it's not bad.
But that's it. That's my final thoughts on mech. It's good.
Fair enough. And then I guess the other thing to say was, as you are doing your renovation project, your restoration project for the Mordians, will they take a more close combat turn?
Definitely. I see combat guard, pure infantry combat guard being very effective. I mean, the first hint we got of this was when it was the pure infantry guard versus the Tau, about a year ago, well, not even like 8 months ago. What I think you need to do with combat guard is you need to have 70% combat, 30% fire support. You still need your fire support.
You always need your big guns pounding away in the background.
But the way I've got a list at the moment, maybe it's crazy, I've just theory crafted it before this video. It will need distillation, but it's going to be 3 platoons of guard, basically 3 battalions. Each one's going to have 6 infantry squads with power swords, flamers, melter.
Not power fist, can they?
I don't know, but it's too expensive. You just want the power swords. Flamers, melter, power swords. 60 of them with a priest and some officers. That twice. And then with each one of those assault platoons, I'm even thinking 6 Bulgrins. Not Bulgrins, 6 Ogrins. Ogrins simply because they're cheaper, and I'm not going for any psychic powers, so I don't want to bother spending points on Bulgrins. Because Bulgrins without psychic powers aren't really worth it. You might as well take Ogrins.
Yeah.
And the final battalion is full fire support, 3 heavy weapon squads with mortars for my ignore loss blocking, 3 veteran squads with grenade launchers and missile launchers, and 6 infantry squads with las cannon and plasma gun, and all the orders to make them do what they need to do. And that, I think, you could do for any regiment. That would do for any regiment.
Any regiment, that's going to do the job. You've got the priest.
Yeah.
Can you stay? Is it Commander Strachan that gives you an extra attack?
Only if you cast a chance.
Only if you cast a chance. So that wouldn't help. You can still get 2 attacks a guy.
I can still get 2 attacks a guy. You can very
you
easily.
Want the +1 strength, or obviously you just want to be Mordian, right?
This is what I'm doing.
The
if
thing
it's
is,
Mordian.
if you're combat Mordian, you want people to charge you for your 5-up Overwatch.
Well, how I see it working is combat Mordian is like if you really get in the enemy's grill, then your lasgun things, you charge. You've got the ability to charge in, and then they're going to countercharge you. And when they do that, your 5-up Overwatch kicks in, and then you countercharge, countercharge.
So it's constant back and forth, little pockets of resistance and combat. Continuous waves, a cycle of units.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we probably exceeded the 2-hour mark there, or it might be just over, just under. We've got to be around 2 hours. Don't want to put people off from listening to the whole thing, because I hope they enjoy listening to it as much as I have enjoyed taking part. Thank you for having me in Studio 234 today.
That's a good point. Just to let everyone know, if you've somehow managed to get to the end of this video, the reward for you guys is the announcement that I have finally set up a mailing PO box. So if you guys want to mail stuff to me, there's now a dedicated address for that.
It's just be like banter.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to critical.
No, it's fine. I agree. So there will be a link down to that below. There'll be details down below. So if you do have any sort of packages you want to send in, we have that ability now. Also, there'll be a link to the list down in the description below, and of course, most importantly, there will be a link to Johnny's channel, Schola Progenium, down below. Please check it out. He does a lot of really, really good work. He's just starting out. He needs all your support. And he does 2 really good series of videos, which is everything you need to know about X unit, and what's the other one you do?
Tactics that win games.
Tactics that win games, which, as Johnny beats me regularly, is proof of concept. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Bit of a longer one. Please leave as much feedback as possible. I hope that you all enjoyed it, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you very much for your time.